But when you measure it flat, it contradicts that. I'm spitting flat facts and that. And I know you don't like that. Google Maps is flat, it presents elevation profiles like that. I'm a spitting flat earth king. Sentence has a ring, doing my own thing. If earth was a big roast chicken, factually finger licking chicken, we just got the measurements missing. I'm spitting eggs and begs, begging the question lesson. I've said it before, time after time. I'm the spitting flat earth king of rhyme.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a coffee, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Smith Tools and Purchase, Level Plain Poem. I must get around to promoting Level Plain Poem's book that she sent to me. She sent me a whole bunch of them, in fact. One for me, one for my wife, one each for the two kids. So I really appreciate it, but I haven't actually got around to reading them yet. And I do want to do a proper job of actually promoting various bits that I can direct the attention of my audience to when I have gone through them. So I don't want to just put them in front of the camera and start pointing at random bits. So thank you again to Level Plain Poem for sending me out her books. I will promote them once I've actually read through them. Just have another opportunity. Sorry, but I will do. So thank you again. Colton James, Survive the Spin, Effie Patriot, Thomas van der Zander, Measured Flat, Tiers Morgan, Mitch Kennedy, Rod, the name's barely, J-Mel's 24, Unimento, Iron 26, Retro Bill, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Harry Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W, Del West Watson, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Texas Mike, Chow Yun Cat, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Links, as I say, to Patreon are below this video. With that, I will hand across to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
You.
Hello.
We all doing? Be good?
Yeah, not bad.
Did you get a lot accomplished yesterday?
Yeah, got a fair bit accomplished. What chapter do we get up to, hun? Chapter 8 or 9. My wife can't quite remember.
That's pretty good. Nice.
Chapter 8.
24 chapters is quite a chunk. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, it is and it isn't. I mean, the chapters that have got actual chapter numbers, there's only 12 of them. Is that right, hun? 12? Which she's calling half chapters. She's got either labelled with numbers or letters. And those are anecdotes. Yeah? Why isn't this lining up the way I would expect it to? A bit confused. My Google's not lining up the way it should. It's got a little message at the top saying you are presenting, and it's presenting it to the audience. Okay, let's come back to that. Oh, it's because I'm doing it on a different thing. Okay, that's why. I'm doing it on my radar background rather than on the... There we go. Sorry, I was just confused there for a second. What were you asking me? I was completely distracted. I'm sorry.
Can't remember.
You didn't ask anything. You said 24 chapters, and one said that's a nice chunk you took out of it.
Yeah, well, we're not doing anything to the minute. We're just reading through what we've got. So now it's all been, put together on individual files for each chapter. She's just opening up each file and reading through. Originally, she was like, "Do you want to start making the changes?" I'm like, "No. What I want to do first is just read through it all, so that if there's duplicate material that's later in the book, you know which place is best served to have it, because there is a little bit of redundancy in there, as in we've gone through things, and then later in a chapter, it's then rediscussed. So it's capable of being hacked out. But if that's then also included in a later chapter, I want to know about it before we start hacking it out on the fly. So at the moment, we're just reading through it. And that is taking a surprising amount of time. That is to say, one of my concerns as we were going through the various different drafting stages was it wouldn't be big enough. Like there wouldn't be enough to it. Well, that's not going to be the case. It's going to be a fairly substantial book. In other words, if it has a high price tag, if I could say it, then I want it to be a fairly substantial read. Like you can't just pick it up at 9 o'clock in the evening and go, right, I'll just read this through. And then I want you to like get to about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, bedtime, whatever, a couple of hours later and go, right, I'll read the next bit of the book tomorrow. You know what I mean? As opposed to, oh, well, that was a good 90-minute read. And now I'm done with it. It's like 40 quid well spent. Maybe you would feel a bit put out if you managed to rattle your way through it in a night. Now, don't get me wrong, there's going to be those type of bookworms that can and will read it in a day, or however long it takes somebody to read a full book. You know, in the same way as you can watch a full movie, a lot of people can read all the way through a Harry Potter book in a day, or on a day, if you know what I mean, at various points. Anyway, I just want it to be good value. So having a lot of stuff in there. I still want it to be concise. You know, I'm more than willing to hack out stuff that's not relevant.
Very good.
Yes, indeed, do.
I think the problem we're having with a lot of people is the way the dictionary and the way you look up things. I don't know. How does this sound to you, Nathan? Scientific method. A method of procedure that has characterized natural science since the 17th century, consisting in systematic observation, measurement, and experiment, and the formulation, testing, and modification of hypothesis.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of bits in that I'd take umbrage with. Repeated observation. Or like blinking. You know what I mean? It's like, no.
Yeah, that's what I noticed.
Kiwi went through this with us. I'm getting my tongue tied today. And you summarised it a couple of days ago. You said it's like trying to find a citation for going through the alphabet. You're not going to find that. You know, you'll find children's books that give you various sections of the alphabet to teach them, or methodologies to keep them engaged with learning their alphabet. But it's not like you'll find, here's a cited source for the order of the alphabet. First comes A, then comes B, then C. You're not going to find that as a citation. You know, it's just not the way it is. So you've got people half stepping around trying to define it later in their lives, and those make it into the dictionary. But, you know, you're not going to find somebody saying it the way I say it. And I say it in a lot more concise manner that describes all the sum of the parts of the method with the steps in as concise a way as I possibly can, which is more expansive than necessarily a definition wants to be. So for whatever brevity, they might cut it down. And when you listen to all of them, they've all got the same underlying theme, which is hypothesis testing. So, you know, they're all kind of there. But people like to take bits that, like repeated observation, the incorrect bit of the citation is what somebody, your opponent, might take and say, well, I've repeatedly observed this, therefore science. You're like, no. You know, seeing a naturally occurring phenomena and having seen it more than once, you want to find out what caused it. You don't need to see it more than once. You know, it's completely, it's irrelevant to the process, but it's in there. So I'm sure somebody will come along and try and exploit that bit of the definition. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What about this for physics? Study of matter and its motion, along with related concepts such as energy and force. Physics is the scientific study of matter, its fundamental constituents, its motion and behavior through space and time, and the related entities of energy and force. It is one of the most fundamental scientific disciplines. A scientist who specializes in the field of physics is called a physicist. Physics is one of the oldest academic disciplines.
Again, I can take a fair bit of umbrage with some of the parts of that definition as well. But, I mean, who cares? Why do you need to be able to define these things for others? You know, if you know what the process, it's not about the definition in the case of science. People are like, well, isn't it very important about words and their meanings? Yes and no. Yes, it is important if you're trying to communicate to somebody else what science is. Now that I realise we don't sit in a science category at all, it's kind of benign to us. But for the purposes of communication, yes, you need to be able to agree on terms if you're having a communication session with another human being, right? But in terms of science, the definition's irrelevant because you're trying to put a phenomena through the method to establish cause. So the process itself is very important. How it's defined to a next man, if you get it wrong, well, it doesn't necessarily matter that you've got it wrong in terms of you defining it to next man beyond not being clear in your description of a process that offers empiricism. Understanding how the process functions so that you can employ the process, that's the important thing, not the Socratic element of describing that process to another man when defining what science or physics is. So it's like, okay, if you want to redefine it as repeated observation, I can just take the piss out of you if there's a break in the Socratic method. The semantics of its description to another man is incorrect. That just gets a laugh. All right, so I've repeatedly blinked and performed science. Who's off mute?
Me, sorry.
Rating. But yeah, the Socratic element of it is a far less important element than the what is the process and how does it work? What are we trying to achieve? And if somebody takes an aspect of the Socratic description of the method to exploit it to their own end so they can hijack science and grease the skids of their own just so stories, it's recognizing what somebody wants to take a tiny element of the crappy definitions of it to exploit their use of the empiricism it offers. But the empiricism it is offering is part of the methodology, not the Socratic description. Who cares? Who cares? We're not in a science category anymore. So you, of all people, you're like always looking for the easy, why do I need to know this? You don't. Unless you want to argue with a baller who wants to hijack science to make him sound like he's got more legitimacy in his bullshit. You know, other than calling them out on that, you don't need to know what science is. Not in a science category.
This was posted in Master Big, so I want to take care of it. Just give me this. What about this one? Experiment. Scientific procedure carried out to support, refute, or validate a hypothesis. An experiment is a procedure carried out to support or refute a hypothesis or determine the efficacy or likelihood of something previously untried. Experiments provide insight into cause and effect by demonstrating what outcome occurs when a particular factor is manipulated. Experiments vary greatly in goal and scale, but always rely on repeatable procedure and logical analysis of the results. There also exist natural experimental studies.
Oh, yeah. So that it was doing really well until the very last statement. Oh, yeah. So what, like looking at birds humping?
Yep.
They always strap this little weaselly bit on the end of the definition so that somebody who needs to exploit it to bullshit with can. Like, oh, okay, why? Probably because the people who write the dictionary are pressured to do so by some bullshitter who's going to use science when it's not performing the methodology. But up until that, send me that one. That's actually a really good definition for the first part. Then it has a bit of redundancy, and then it chucks that bit in at the end. But the first bit was perfect, I would have said.
Yeah, these were posted by Jin the last day he was here. So he's searching to find something that's going to give him, you know, the, what's the word I'm looking for? Give him validation for what he's promoting as science. Okay, you're going to like this one, Nathan. Applied science. Applied science is the application of the scientific method and scientific knowledge to attain practical goals. It includes a broad range of disciplines, such as engineering and medicine. Applied science is often contrasted with basic science, which is focused on advancing scientific theories and laws that explain and predict natural or other phenomena. There are applied natural sciences as well as applied formal and social sciences.
No, there isn't. It's just
I don't like
bollocks.
applied
So
science
this is
shit.
90% wrong, and this is basically greasing the skids for the applied sciences. Like specifically underneath the definition of pseudoscience, it's got social and psychological, and it's got a list of them, right? But it's only when you contrast it with the definition of pseudoscience that you can show how incorrect this particular definition is. This is somebody who's written it specifically to grease the skids. So they need to include a certain amount of the description. So there's a 10% truth in it. This is a bad when you lie in that way where you keep 20% lies for the 80% truth you're contrasting the lies with. I've forgotten the term, but that's what this is. Just a bad version of it because it's 90% garbage and 10% explaining it's a hypothesis test. That was in there somewhere, but they need to keep that in there so that if you lean into how they're offering any validity through their applied science or through the experiment, yeah, but that was only part of your definition. Socratically speaking, this is 90% greasing the skids for bullshitters, isn't it?
Yes. Now the basic definition that he posted doesn't say where this is from, but it says science, systematic study of the natural world. Science is a systematic discipline that builds and organizes knowledge in the form of testable hypotheses and predictions about the universe.
That's it. Done.
Model,
Done. So at that point, you've summarized it. If you're testing hypotheses, you're performing experiment. Hypothesis is the establishment of IVDV. So this is right. But now I already know before, because you haven't finished, that there's going to be more greasing the skids for bullshitters coming afterwards. But if you just put a full stop there, there was a little bit that was a bit squirrely at the start. But that's 90% correct, isn't it?
yes. So here's the bullcrap part. Modern science is typically divided into 2 or 3 major branches. The natural sciences, which study the physical world, and the social sciences, which study the individuals and societies.
What, one of the pseudosciences? Fuck off. This is instead of 80-20, this is 50-50, isn't it? Give a really good definition of science and then say, but there's another science. Oh, yeah. Modern science. Piss off. I don't care anymore, Neil. 5 years ago, this would have really got my goat. But I'm not in a science subject. You're not in a science subject. We're not in a science subject. What's that? But science is engineering. Oh, fuck off. Get lost. You want to call your engineering science, you mean? Yeah. Okay, well, take us through the method, how it proves things then. All right, it doesn't. You're just calling it science because the bit in the definition that does prove things is useful for you bullshitter.
Yeah, but these are the things that'll cause Jim to buckle down and say, my position has not changed. And it's surprising to me because he's an educator.
I don't care. When he tells me that he's got proof of something, right, you just look at the method that's been applied, and if it's, well, because it's been done by engineers, it's science. Why? Because in this definition, they describe and categorize engineering as science. It's like, so you're saying because it's categorized? No, we're trying to define what science is. It's got a purpose, proving things. Now, that's why you want to apply this term to engineering. But when you go, okay, if we accept this applied science, how does that science prove things? Well, just by being engineers. Fuck off. That's my attitude. Give me a method that will prove things with this process of science. Not, I'm going to call my engineering science, because all you're doing is hijacking the validity that science actually provides. Now, you can either accept that, because it's the facts in the method, that's the important bit, that proves things. Now, if you go, well, I need to steal a bit of valor here. I'm saying I've proven my point when I talk about how this building collapsed. Fuck off. If you want to take that as your standard, you're a wanker. You're just taking the words of men because they call themselves engineers and say they're doing science because they're engineers and it's an applied science. Fuck right off. If that's your standard, you're a wanker. You'll be duped, won't you? Because I can come along and say I've done the science of engineering of automotive because I've got a driving license and I can use the technology. You're like, no, I'm just greasing my own skids for being a bullshitter when it comes to automotive engineering science, right? Fuck off. You know, if you want to take that and believe it as being proof of your point, then you can. You can. Me, I won't, because I understand what the method's used for, how it implies, how it provides empiricism, not implies, provides the truth in the matter. How you can't have a violation of the law or non-contradiction built into the hypothesis, which they all mention. So it's more about studying hypothesis construction, because they're all mentioning hypothesis. Now, in scientific context, you know exactly what that means.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, there are people who are always going to want to hijack the empirical method because it's empirical. So they can lend some credence to their bullshit. That's all this is. So fine, well, if you want to do that. We were Rigsing the other day, and people who are surface dwellers, in terms of they'll use the Socratic method to establish what science is, you're like, no, it's understanding a methodology, not understanding the description or the definition. But you'll do that, and then you'll end up being like Riggs was the other day. Yeah?
Absolutely.
You go, well,
Yep.
What is it then? Okay, tell me what science is. Oh, well, it's testing control variables. Fuck off. You don't know what you're talking about, you bullshitter, do you? Testing control variables. What, the one things that don't vary? No, you just don't know what you're babbling about. That's the reality. You get bullshitters who want to talk crap about their applied sciences, and when you ask them, well, why? Well, because I've got something synthetic that I feel the need to prove or pretend I've got proof of. I'm trying to find it. I did trim it out. Where the hell is that? And it in a pinch. Trim it out though. If I find it, I'll play it. Here it is. I've got it. I think.
Go ahead, Nathan.
No, I just want him to go through it. He's saying you need to distill it to do science. So I was going to wait till he finished and then ask him what he thinks doing science means. What does doing science mean?
I guess I would say like using a control to validate a cause, maybe, or to validate something.
There it is. Using a control, a constant variable, something that's not varied, that's kept constant so it doesn't skew the test. Using that to validate something. Like, these people are just bullshitters, aren't they? These are the people that want to take the definition and use the Socratic method to suggest that an engineer is proving something when they have a little look at something. But you haven't got to dig far with people like this bullshitters to find that they haven't got the slightest idea what they're babbling about. Go on.
Whoa.
The steps. What are the steps of the scientific method?
I guess establish a hypothesis, get your controls together, and then
He knows there's a hypothesis involved, doesn't he? It's because they all include that word.
see where see what you can validate from it.
Okay, what are controls? What are controls?
What are the controls? I would say
what are the controls. What are controls?
Have something that you know for sure, and then like have another thing you know for sure, and then use them to manipulate them in some way. See what changes.
No.
No.
Controls are what you call constant variables. Just means that they don't change. That's what a control is.
Okay.
I mean, the reason I'm quizzing you is because you said you don't agree. When Neil was like, that, it's not agree, disagree. And you're like, well, I don't know. I don't think that's what you do with science. But I mean, no offense, you don't know what science is, do you?
Well, I think that the scientific method and science are like two different things.
Okay, well, let's define them then. So what's science then?
Yeah, science would be, I guess like knowledge, something like that, like things that you can know.
Wouldn't that be knowledge?
I don't know. I don't have like all the stuff in my head right now.
Okay, so
but let's see. Scientific method would be like a methodology to like come to knowledge. And I guess science would be things that perhaps are established by coming to that knowledge, I suppose.
Knowledge is knowledge. Like knowing things, knowledge. Do you see how they're kind of the same words? Yeah. Knowledge, knowing things. That's not science. That's a very different word.
Okay.
So knowledge isn't science. And when I ask what the scientific method is to contrast it, you're saying the stuff you do to come to the knowledge.
Okay. I don't think that like it's like emphasis on natural, like regardless of what that other stuff is, I still think that you can have something that's unnatural that you can use to provide evidential information in order to learn things. And I would still consider it science, whether it's a synthetic something or not. I would still call it science. Like this idea of natural is just like not
why are you calling it anything?
Me.
You don't know what it is. So why are you calling it something? That's really, it's just frustrating. You don't know what science is, but you feel it's necessary to tell me what you feel it is. Why?
It's just my opinion, man. Like, it doesn't matter either way, but it's not
an opinionated subject. It just is what it is. The scientific method's really narrow and strict in terms of what it is. It's governed by physics. Do you know what physics means? It's the study of the physical and natural world. That's what physics is. It's governed by the scientific method. So when you say, well, it could be synthetic.
Is physics, does it apply to...
Is it just me, or are you talking
things?
while I'm telling you stuff? I'm trying to educate you. You don't know what you're babbling about.
I asked a question. You paused, so I asked a question.
I didn't pause.
Oh,
to study the physical and natural world, right? You're saying, I think it can deal with synthetic things. Why do you think that? You don't know what you're talking about. You shouldn't have an opinion on this because you don't know what you're talking about. So you, what?
Yeah,
am I pausing?
I can
Have you pause? Shut up. You don't know what science is. Do not babble about what science is when you don't know what it is.
Okay.
Just shut up about it. You don't know what it is. You don't have to agree with me while I'm telling you off. Yeah, don't talk about science.
I'm not here to
again.
Debate about it. Somebody asked my opinion.
No. We're trying to establish how big a bullshitter you are. And clearly you are a massive bullshitter.
I'm not here to bullshit.
Well, then don't talk about science. You don't know what it is.
I was asked.
Yeah, and you didn't know the answers. You said you thought it could be governed by synthetic things. Wrong.
I think it could.
Yeah, that's your mistake.
Good.
Stop thinking. You don't know what science is. Just understand that you're wrong and you don't know what you're talking about. Why can't you have some humility? Go, you know what? Yeah, I've talked shit about stuff I don't understand for quite some time now. Now I'm going to keep my mouth shut and try and learn something. No, you're still babbling through me. You just don't know what science is. It's just that simple. So you shouldn't have an opinion on it.
Sorry.
That's
can't
fine.
Stop me.
Do you want to know what science is?
Can't stop me from having an opinion, bro.
It's not an opinionated... Second time. Your opinion on what science is. As you talking,
bro,
did I
sorry.
pause? Did I pause? Guy who doesn't know what science is. It's not funny. Yeah, I haven't spent
I think
8 years of my life educating people like you on this for you to laugh at me while I'm trying to educate you because you don't know what you're talking about. You think that's funny? I just see you as ignorant in this regard.
You're being kind of rude to me, and I'm just here for fun. So.
Oh right, I'm not here for fun. I'm here to teach people.
I'm not here to learn from you.
Well, then why are you here?
I'm just hanging out. I was just hanging out because Harp's here.
No, you weren't. You were telling us what science
is,
you stupid idiot. That's not fun. That's you expressing what you think is valid opinion on something you don't understand. No, I don't find that fun. I find that extremely egregious.
You can call me wrong. I'm not going to get upset.
You are wrong.
Okay, cool. You can say that.
Not cool. Irritating. You don't seem to understand what's happening. You've spouted utter shite, and now I'm calling you on it. And now you've run away, fucking coward.
Yeah, and that's the problem because Jin goes over there. So everything you educate Jin on goes right out the window when he comes across this asshole. And that's why I'm holding his feet to the fire. But I thought he would have some humility and say, you know what? Why don't you tell me what science is so I can properly understand it?
No, because he thinks it's about his fucking opinion. Like, we give two fucks what this ginger retard has got to say about science. He hasn't got a fucking clue. Says it's about the synthetic. What man has made? You already know what caused it. Man made it. Oh, it's just my opinion. I'm here to have fun. No, you're not. You're spewing shit about science and what you think it is. From a complete position of ignorance.
Yeah, and that's the problem.
Well, I think they might be changing the definitions as we've been talking for the past week, because I'm trying to find scientific method.
You're not going
Right, that's just the conversation we had earlier, right? So we won't repeat it. We had the exact same conversation you and I just had. Neil's obviously run away. Did you disappear halfway through my video, Neil? Really? Alrighty then. Well, I'm glad I'm having a conversation with myself. We should just play a different video.
The run through of Bob Nordell the other night was very good, Nathan. That could be a standalone show of itself.
Oh, at the end of the 8-hour pre-show?
Yeah, that's the one.
8-hour after show. You know what I meant.
8 more hours. 8 more hours.
Starting to get mic withdrawal, like Neil said. You've got to pull the vein out of your arm slowly. So normally about now, I'd be looking at my eBay to see the things that I'd bought in the last couple of days that'd be turning up. And I went through the list and I'm like, oh, that looks the same as, oh yeah, I've not bought anything. So nothing's going to be turning up. I think the only thing I've got en route is from China is some like bags to put them in. So when I've got loose mics, I calculated how many I got that were loose without any packaging so that I can at least put them in a what would you call it? It's the material they make paintings with. Canvas. Yeah, that's the one. So I bought some canvas bags that are on their way, but that's it. Nothing else is on its way. They'll start dwindling. So normally I top up, my stock to keep stock in stock so that I've got things to sell. Once something sells, I'm kind of replacing it with something that I bought. Whereas that's not the case. So it's gone from, 65, 70 mics down to 65, down to 60. Now I think it's at 54 listings that I've got on eBay. And that'll just keep going down and down and down and down. But it means that I'm not like chasing at people or looking for stuff. In book editing work with my wife. So that's what, that time's being filled with. Which is how it's supposed to be, right? We're going to be on track to get it out for Easter. I need to actually work on it It's just stressful. I find it stressful doing it. I don't know why. You're worried about the future when you're thinking about what's going on to the page, because like, once it's there, yes, it could be minor. There could be minor alterations made after the fact. Kind of committing to putting something out there when you're like, yes, that's good. Putting it in limbo when it's been in limbo for such a long time is there's a sort of an air of uncertainty that's good. As in, well, I can always make an alteration to that if I don't like it. But now I'm at the point where my wife's like, no, but this is, once this next step's done, it's done. That's it. It'll go out. And then you're kind of biting your fingernails going, will people like it? On the other hand, in the process of doing it, I'm so delighted with what's actually there. Yes, there's a bit of redundancy in the last chapter we read. I think it was chapter 7 that will be hacked out when we go through it. 7th draft, this being the 6th. But yeah, my wife's 6th draft put together is great. I work into it. So yeah, the 7th draft will be the final draft. A lot of drafts, isn't it?
It's a lot of bloody work.
But it's worth it. It's, not only for the quality of the content being polished up and refined and polished up, stolen, retrieved, polished up. You know what I mean? That in and of itself creates quite an interesting story. But it's more the fact that it's had a time to simmer as far as people getting a waft of the stink, metaphorically speaking, right? The smells permeating the air of the book before it's actually produced. If it had just come out without anybody having any knowledge that it was coming out, then it wouldn't come out with a bang. Whereas I do feel like it will come out with a bang, and people are anticipating it, and they're justified to anticipate it. I like the bits that are about me. So the anecdotal bits more than the flat earth bits. When we're, editing it, I'm listening back to my stories about Stephen Chess and Eddie Bravo or whoever, and going, that's going to be this name, and I pull out the fake name out my ass, or go to the page on my iPad that I've got all the list of fake names as we, edit the book. We will on the next draft substitute all the names for fake ones to avoid litigation, in case anybody takes umbrage. I mean, the stories will be true stories, but it doesn't mean that people won't be offended by them. They're just my version of the events as I had them unfolding to me. People might be of the case of, well, that way it unfolded wasn't the truth of the matter, and you're like, that's how it unfolded to me. That's how it went out into the public. In other words, it's easy to verify my version of how I saw the events in my anecdotes, but they're just my anecdotes as they've been experienced by me. So I'm not concerned that if someone was to litigate, I would rather avoid it. And if you change the names, if somebody goes, I don't want people knowing that, I know, I'll sue, so it doesn't look like I'm a complete, whatever. And there's a lot of complete whatevers in the book in terms of my anecdotes of people. One of which I don't know if I've mentioned this already, but Wakey got in touch with me. Can't remember why. Oh yeah, it's one of his. I don't know what it was in relation to Wakey. If it was a customer or a YouTube follower or a social media interactor, I don't know. But there's some guy that's a flat earther that's interacting with Wakey and mentioned that he was a fan of mine. So hence that led Mark, his name is, to contact me and say, hey, I've got this guy who's mentioned that you're one of his favourites. I was like, oh, well, that's really nice to hear. And by the way, I've just finished a chapter about you. Do you want to hear a bit of it? And I was like, is it good? Do I paint him in a good light? I'm like, yes and no. So I just chunked out a bit and sent it to him. I'm like, please don't repeat, don't publish this because it's not out yet. But here's you in the book. And I think I might have told him his fake name. As he's approved and gave me the little, you can put a little thumbs up on the message that you've sent to somebody. He put his little thumbs up after reading it, which is good enough, right? But yeah, I just chunked it out and sent it to him, and he was happy with it. I think I've changed Wakey to 9090. something obvious, but for him, that's good enough for it to not be him. And if they've got a YouTube channel name, I think I've given them 2 fake names. So I've changed their channel name to something else. And then if I refer to them in the first person, I've given them a fake real name, if that makes sense.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good to have you all. Can we get a hello from Discord?
Hello.
Thank you very much, Charlie. Is it Charlie Handsome? It is Charlie Handsome. Good to have you all. In the pre-show, we were discussing science, the scientific method, and the greasing of the skids that is utilised by people who want to apply the empiricism of science to whatever field they're claiming they have proof in. And when it comes to science, my discussion hinged around the fact that the methodology is the important thing, not the Socratic method of coming to a conclusion about what it is based on its definition. What the method does and how it achieves it, and understanding that is what's crucial when it comes to science, because it's offering empiricism. So if you disagree with a definitional example of science, who cares? It's whether or not you can afford yourself empirical proof at the end. And that's not going to come via agreeing with Nextman about how the term's defined. Whereas the methodology itself is what affords you empirical evidence. That's the important thing when it comes to science. Moreover, we are not in a science category. What we do here has nothing to do with science. But for the fact that our opponents need to grease their skids of their bullshit when they suggest that looking up at a light in the sky proves we're on a spinning ball flying through a sky vacuum, they need to grease the skids by suggesting that they're looking at those lights is science. But again, when you pin them down to how is looking at a light offering any empiricism to what you say and provide as a just so story about a religious viewpoint, it doesn't. But if you can grease those skids by saying that a scientist looked at the light, then there's a greater chance that the person who you're telling your just so story to will accept that. Same goes for any other field of psychology, engineering, any of the pseudosciences that haven't been through the methodology to impart the empiricism that they're looking to steal the valor of when people say the word science or use science words like hypothesis. Meanwhile, it's not for us to concern ourselves with anymore. We are not in a science subject. We aren't trying to grease the skids of our facts when it comes to measuring Earth flat. With science, I don't need to pepper the fact that Earth's measured flat by saying science proved it. You can either accept that Earth's measured flat if you're measuring Earth or not. I don't care if you don't accept it. I don't have to convince you that it is flat when it isn't by saying science proved it because I'm bullshitting about it. I'll show you one of the measurements. If you go, oh, well, I don't want to accept that, does it matter that you don't accept an elevation angle? No. Does it make the slightest bit of difference to how Earth's measured, parallel with surface level for altitudes? If you don't want to accept altitudes, don't accept them. But I don't have to bullshit you by saying, well, science said that altitudes are parallel with surface level. I don't need to do that. It's completely unnecessary. The fact of how Earth is measured for altitude is all you need to know. Don't need to pepper it. I don't need to grease any skids. I'm just stating facts. So I don't need science. Our opponents, back in the day when we were concerned with arguing because it seemed like there was a debate to have, they needed to grease the skids and say that they got scientific validity. And there's plenty of people on the so-called flat Earth side that have done it in the last 10 years of my experience. People like Bob Nodell claiming that they're going to find you free energy. Bullshitters, frauds, charlatans that want to scam you into beliefs, future faking you into thinking you're going to get free energy. They will lie to you and say that they've got scientific validity because they do need to grease the skids of their just so stories. They do need to call Michelson Morley experiments when they're not. Parlour tricks to grease the skids of lies need to be called science. Empiricism offered by measurement is an as-is statement of facts that can either be accepted or denied, but it's inconsequential to the reality of Earth. Earth's flat. That's how it's measured.
I think we're getting closer and closer to breaking the line on even just arguing and quote unquote debating the subject. And it takes perseverance. I've got a friend of mine who posted an article of mine on her Substack, and it basically just says, Earth is flat. It's measured that way. It's only 2 pages. And some guy came on and started the usual Glover discussion that it's not really, and this is weird, and science says, and stuff like that. What's funny is that he had to agree with sea level is level. So I got him to agree. Well, we all agree that sea level is level. Well, yeah, but he was stuck. And his response was, what causes sea level to be level? And if you guys can't figure that out, then something's wrong here. It's
Sea level's not
unusual.
a cause and effect relationship.
There's nowhere he could go except to a kind of a science thing. Well, we don't know why that happens, and that's what science is for. But he just only said,
Say it again. Sea level's not something happening.
yeah, I didn't even argue with science stuff. I just said, well, we agree that sea level is level, right? And he basically said yes, but didn't say it directly. Where they usually go is, well, sea level is parallel with the curve of the Earth. But he didn't go there. Usually they do. And with the perpendicular to gravity. He only mentioned gravity because it's like they don't want to say what the hard ballers say,
Well, they don't want to use a contradiction in terms. Parallel with a curve. You're describing an axiomatic flaw in your own logic if you say parallel with a curve. Because you can't be parallel with a curve, can you?
No. He couldn't even go there because he's not that stupid. Because my answer is, so curved then, so not level, and then it goes round and round. He was I think they're just trying to carefully sound smart. Well, we just need to know why sea level is level, and mention gravity here, there, and just not go the full 9 yards and say, gravity parallel with the Earth, that kind of stuff. So I think just this slow hammering of it's level and just letting it go. Have a nice day.
There isn't a why to be answered here. There's no why. If I say inches, why? What are you talking about? It's not a questionable thing. It's just an inch. Or kilometres. Why kilometres? I'm like, why? Are you a freaking poet? A bad one? This isn't capable of description in a why. Why an inch? Do you mean why an inch? Inch is a way of measuring things. Kilometres is a way of measuring things. Say, why sea level? What do you mean why sea level? It's just what we describe altitudes from. It's not a why question. Like, why we describe altitude from sea level is a question. But then you've got to understand the axiom that is sea level to ask why we measure altitudes from it. Well, because it's parallel with the surface. That's what an altitude is. Then you can ask a why question. But why sea level? It's like, no, this isn't a how, or this isn't a why, if and then circumstance. It's not a capability to put it through the scientific method to ask that question. But they need to grease the skids of... They're so used to having their skids greased by science that they need to take axiomatic descriptions of things like level and put them into if and then circumstances so that they can then steal the valor of science when they just tell you something that violates a principle. Well, level curves. Like, why? Well, because in my world, science says. Well, why? Well, because science is the expression of engineering. Why? Well, because I say so. That's why. It's like, okay, but in reality, science has nothing to do with this subject. We're just describing the mile, the inch, parallel, vertical. But what's the other one? Perpendicular, as you said earlier. That's all we're doing. You either understand what perpendicular means or you don't. Now, if you don't, you might be able to be duped by somebody who says perpendicular to a curve. No, clearly you don't know what perpendicular means then. But then we can get into the Socratic method of, do you know what perpendicular means? Because all we're trying to establish is that you're not a moron violating these principles that are easy to define and describe. But the why of perpendicular? Why perpendicular? You're an idiot, aren't you? You need to hijack something here, don't you? Because you've got a contradiction in terms that you need to validate for your religion to work.
Yeah, they know what they're saying is false. They know their brain breaks when they say that level is parallel to the curve of the earth and that down is perpendicular to the vector of, to the gravity and stuff like that. They know that's BS in their hearts. But they just can't let go. And I think that like with this guy, and I'm replying to him and trying to be nice and stuff, he's finally breaking off and saying, well, we're done because I'm wasting your friend's time here with, it was on her Substack that we did this. And I'm trying to give him that golden bridge to back out and just go away and not try to be so smart, but not try to bludgeon him with how stupid he is. And he's not stupid. He's just ignorant, and he just can't cope with the fact that the earth could quite possibly be flat. And there's this guy saying that they're just measuring it that way. And I just have the challenge, if you think the earth is a globe, then, have you measured it? And I gave all the list of the words you're not supposed to use. And he agrees that water, liquids of all kinds, seek level. And that's where I held him and said, okay, it's all level. That's the way it is. 70% of the earth is water. Figure it out for yourself. And
you're more forgiving than I, because when I encounter this scenario, I just think I don't care anymore. It doesn't matter if he agrees, does it? At the end, these axiomatic principles are what they are. Him getting it is utterly inconsequential, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I'm in the middle of my final reply to him right now that I haven't posted yet. And that's basically what I'm saying. I'm answering a couple of his questions and saying in so many words, it really doesn't matter why you want to know why sea level is level. What makes it level? Go figure that out yourself. That's fine. You can think about that. It's not going to change how we measure the earth. Yes. And that gives him. I really think that's the good idea is to give people that golden bridge to get away from you with their dignity and with their respect, and even maybe thinking that you're dumb. But I've totally washed my hands of it and says, you can think what you want. This is how we measure it. So I don't feel bad at all. And anyone that reads me and reads what I write, I don't think would think that he, hurt me or, put a dent in my case.
Well, it's not a case though, is it? That's my point. It's not a case when you say Earth is measured flat. That's a statement of absolute fact that is inconsequential whether or not the person being told it, and you are just telling them. It's not a case you're putting forward. But this is the thing. You are more empathetic to the cause of next man than I am. I mean, maybe I'm jaded, but I've given up caring, which is to say, when this befell us, and this got covered in the pre-show, right? The guy that hosted us the last couple of Fridays, because he came along and asked, he was like, "Can you come into my server?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course, no worries." Well, he very quickly turned out to be Billy Bullshitter, pretending to know about science and wanting to suggest that our definitions of science, being that synthetic wouldn't be included because you know what caused it, that's man making it, he didn't agree. So I was like, okay, well, let's see if you actually know what science is. And he didn't. So it's like, okay, so you just want to grease the skids and you're not even going to be smart enough to find out what this is. At which point I'm like, well, you're just dumb. In other words, I don't want to associate with you. You're a dumbass. And you're embarrassing to me in what I do. Now, there might be people who find this out and go, well, surely you want to keep this man on your side so he can go into his server. I couldn't give a crap. Thick as sugarcoating these things. I'm not going to go along to get along because some wanker thinks that they're worthy of my time when they want to tell me that synthetic things are worthy of the scientific method. Right? Okay. I know that's not the case, and I will tell you that you're wrong, rather than worrying about whether or not he walks away with his dignity. I don't care. Yeah, I've gone beyond that. Maybe I am definitely jaded, because I don't care if you feel stupid when I point out how stupid you're being. That doesn't concern me. I've had to have plenty of humility about the ignorance, my own ignorance. So what I should, because I've had to do that to come to the point where I can hear you being bully bullshitter, extend you some courtesy so you don't feel so stupid about yourself. Why? I had to. I'm not going to force that upon you, but if you're in my presence bullshitting about things like science, things like curved, what was the axiom we did earlier? Perpendicular. You're like, no, you're just stupid. Saying these things are stupid. The general normie is going to be hesitant to say these things because he recognises that saying it might lead to someone like me, who's less sympathetic, saying that's just stupid. Ergo, you are stupid. Nobody wants that. So they're hesitant. But the people who are more inclined to defend their faith will be so egregious as to say violations of axioms to get around their faith in my mind's eye, like putting it to me. Because in their mind, convincing someone like me helps them sleep better. Because the case that they've put forward has been convincing that day. Now me, I'm like, there is no case to put forward anymore. I don't care if you won't accept how flat Earth is measured. Will it make a difference? No. I'm currently pointing out that you go back in our timeline and look at any of our opponents. They've always been measuring Earth flat anyway. Now, the fact that they were too dumb to recognise how flat they required it to be doesn't need me pointing it out to them. But when they do, and they're in my presence, I'll be like, well, that's stupid. They'll just get called stupid, because that's what it is. If I'm going to have to suffer the humility of recognising my own stupidity and go, bloody hell, we spent ages arguing about this subject like we were bleeding experts, not recognising the surface level, parallel eye level, sea level, principles that are axioms like perpendicular and parallel. We saw all of them. We just ignored them. They were right there in front of our faces. So we've had to have the humility and go, yeah, weren't we stupid? We often discuss it here on this show. Yeah, weren't we stupid? God, if only we knew then. Like, yeah, we're just acknowledging how dumb we are, but suddenly we've got to extend courtesies, often to shitbags that are really nasty to us, telling us that we're wrong. I don't give a crap about these people anymore. And your average normie that needs to hold his head up high when he walks away from his incorrect beliefs that he'd been holding up until the point that maybe you'd nudged him in the right direction. I mean, I'm not for nudging anybody anywhere. It's like, I know what I know. I've had to have humility to get where I am. If you want to come around and tell me it's something else, then you'll just get called stupid. Because that's the reality of the circumstances that we all find ourselves in. We're all recognising how stupid it was to believe we were on a ball when we measure Earth flat. So if you want to hold on to that and start dictating it to me, I know now why you're doing that, for pain relief, so that your case can be put in a way that is seemingly more valid. There's no validity to seek here. It's just measurements. It's not that serious. You either get it or you don't.
It'll be interesting because I also tied in the fact that measurements are true, and that that tied that into how that biblically the descriptions of our realm are equal to what am I going to say? How we measure the earth is compatible with biblical description of the earth as being flat, and it's antithetical to the heliocentric version. The person whose Substack I put this on is a Christian, and she's doing biblical cosmology, basically. And I'm kind of helping her to learn how to just go with the measurements and stick with that, and that it's true, and that God's laws are true, and axioms and the whole laws of nature are true. So I'm tying in the measurements to laws of nature and to the intricacies of God's creation. So this guy is another one of those guys that, good Christian, also heliocentric, like 90% of everybody. So these kind of arguments kind of bridge between the, well, in the heliocentric's mind, the science, which we know as pseudoscience, and God, and how those are supposed, science proves God or God proves science, all those arguments, old earth, young earth. And so being able to just know that the measurements, how we measure stuff, how we navigate, how we map stuff, how we look up, we look down, there's an up, there's a down, there's a heaven, there's a hell. Mixing that up and trying to get people to kind of realize that they've been believing something that God didn't say he created. But here's the law, here's a natural law, here's an axiomatic principle, horizontal and vertical, perpendicular. I think that's one of my goals, is to kind of bridge that gap between the Christians who don't know that God created this realm the way it is, and we measure it that way.
Yeah, but the final statement is inconsequential to their belief to the contrary. If they've got a violation of that fact, when it comes to just measuring Earth, which is all that this matters. In other words, us holding an opinion on whether or not it's flat or a sphere, as we're taught, didn't matter in terms of how functional Earth was utilised. How it was utilised was always the same. It was always being dealt with flat. So it didn't matter how you believed or perceived the world to be. Yeah? When it actually gets down to... I've told this story a few times. When it came to my sister, who's owned a couple of boats, going out on the sea, she had to study and be qualified in celestial navigation. When it came to her discussing this subject with me, and I'm arguing with her current husband about how flat Earth is, she's nodding along while I'm describing celestial navigation to her as a proof of flat Earth. Now, the reason she's nodding along is because she's had to learn how to do it, and it is what it is. Now, she's not nodding along because she agreed at the time, maybe she did, that Earth is flat. She just knew how she was taught how to navigate and was nodding with my descriptions of how I'm terminalising the things that she had already been taught to go out on her boats. In other words, as a stout, heliocentric believer that she was at the time, she could have this cognitive dissonance never highlighted in the fact that when out on the boat, she's learned how to measure and navigate the world flat. That's how it's taught. So it wouldn't have mattered if she'd have continued for the rest of her days with a heliocentric belief. She'd have still measured Earth flat. when out at sea. And that's true for anybody that's ever dealing with Earth in any capacity for measurement purposes. It's going to be flat. So it's almost like you go, well, when people say, what difference does it make? You're like, well, no difference. You know, you'll still have to deal with Earth flat if you go out and deal with it in any capacity to measure it, or save your life at sea so you don't get lost. You know, you'll just have to deal with Earth as a flat plane then. You know, you'll quickly forget your religion if your life depends on it. But you can still keep your religion. You can still believe you're on a sphere. But me being antagonistic and pointing out, well, that sphere belief comes from the flat Earth measurements, you realise. Ha 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 ha. That's me sniffing my own farts. Me expressing my intellectual superiority to next man. I don't have to rob them of their religion for it to be flat and dealt with as such by everyone always in all circumstances. So it kind of becomes a bit benign. The heliocentric religion, religions ebb and flow and change all the time. So, you know, 200 years from now, there'll be a different religion used to keep people under control. It won't be heliocentrism. It'll be something else, but it'll be similar. You know, it'll serve the same purposes. But Earth, if it's being navigated in 200 years from now, will still be navigated flat. We'll still deal with the surveying of the land and the building on the land. It'll all still be done exactly the same way as it always was and always will be, and is currently being done flat. That's how it has to be done. There's no other way to do it. So as it stands, you can have this coexistence where people believe that they're on a ball and measure Earth flat. And our opponents, cognitively dissonant that they are, have done that. And in their mind, squared the circle of measuring it flat whilst telling you it's a ball. You think, wow, what a marvellous organ our brain is to be able to square such circles for pain relief. That's amazing. You're an amazing individual, Simon Dan. I can't believe you've done it. You know, you measure Earth flat 1,000 times and tell your audience that's because you're on a ball. Amazing that your brain can do that to keep yourself sane. Me, I recognise that the measurements are flat and you can create a ball with those measurements, but that obviously means we're not on a ball. That's the belief bit that comes after the measurement bit. You know, but not having that in-between statement stated by our opponents that they were perceived to be up until only a few months ago was such that they could declare, I measure Earth flat in this way. Here's how I measure it flat. That's because it's a really big ball. That's nuts. Got to admire it.
So brave, so beautiful.
Yeah, special and brave.
It doesn't really matter. Everyone's a flat earther by default. You're living on a flat earth. There's no getting away from that. So the heliocentrists, with their cognitive dissonance and their beliefs, fine. You want to operate under those standards? Good luck to you. The point is, you're living on a flat earth, and it's not subject to your disapproval. So please carry on. That's it. You just got to let them go. As in Alan Watts. Don't sweat it. Let them have it. You move on. You've already done your due diligence. You've informed them, and that's that.
I don't think that's much diligence. I don't think it's up to me to inform them. This is where you and I disagree, and I'm not saying you're wrong by doing it your way, right? You go ahead and tell everyone you want. Flat Earth evangelist. That's if you see that as your, what was the word you just used, Jin? Due diligence. If that's you perceive that to be diligent on your part, then fair enough, right? But I don't. I like when it comes to life and death circumstances, the same person that you're informing that in spite of their belief in a ball, Earth will still be flat and dealt with as such in any event. In that moment, there was no consequences to them understanding and knowing. So if that person says, well, what difference does it make? The answer is, well, very little. Because should you come to a life and death circumstance, you will measure Earth flat. If it comes to you building something so that it doesn't collapse on people, you will build on Earth flat, deal with it and measure and survey it flat. That's how it's dealt with. So from that perspective, it's like, what difference does it make if you keep your religion? To flip it on its head, when we were asked, what difference does it make if it's flat? Well, it is. That's how it's dealt with. But what difference does it make if you keep hold of your ball religion? Well, none. We'll still measure Earth flat. So we should be the tolerant. If we want people to respect flat earthers, We should be the tolerant ones. We've been painted into a corner where we're telling people that their belief's wrong. Well, that kind of makes us a bit scummy, going around telling people they're wrong in their beliefs when we're supposed to be tolerant of their beliefs. Well, you know, we can, if you want to rub it in their face by saying it with a certain tone, well, if you want to keep your religion of a ball, you're welcome to it. You'll need flat earth measurements to do it. But that's vindictive, in my opinion.
Yeah, that scenario you put forward where we're trying to remove people of their beliefs. The flat earthers that I've associated with and seen operating in Britain, in particular, and in the US, they haven't been antagonistic in any way. They're aware there's a deception going on. They want to inform the public of that, and they've done it in a very amicable way, where they set up their equipment, and that would be, you know, their posters and bits of information, memes, and that they've out of their cost up to themselves had it printed and just want to inform the public. That's all they're doing. They're not shoving it down anyone's throats. They've received a lot of abuse for that, right? But that's why I call it, you know, I think what they're doing is very amicable. That's all they're doing, informing the public that, you know, please take a look, do a little bit of research yourself. Here are some links, you know, the earth is indeed flat. That's all they're doing. I think that's very amicable. They're not forcing it on anyone.
Yeah, I disagree. I mean, by being out on the street, you're kind of forcing it upon somebody in the same way as an advertising billboard is forcing you to recognise that Aquafresh makes your teeth whiter, according to them. So, I mean, I've never been one for doing that. I've never gone out and done street activism, because I just don't like the idea of it. You know, it's I take a very different attitude. I seldom bring up the subject of flat Earth with people who I'm out in public. And when I've said this in the past, people are like, "What? You don't tell people overtly that Earth's flat?" I'm like, no, and it very rarely comes up.
Well, were they telling people the Earth is flat, or were they telling them that the globe's a lie?
They were telling them globes are like, well, I won't speak for those people. Jin, hopefully you'll agree when I say those people we're describing would tell people Earth's not a sphere.
Oh, they'll tell them the earth is flat, and they'll tell them the earth's not a sphere, depending on how the discussion goes when they're on the streets. And they're not forcing it on anyone. They're advertising, you're a free individual, you take a look, oh, what is this? And you have a discussion. Or you think, oh, you're a retard, and you move on. That's what these people are like. That's their freedom. No one's forcing anything on anybody. I see a poster. It says Aquafresh makes your breath fresh. That's not forcing on me. That's not a force, is it? It's an advertising. It's a lure. Advertising, yeah, it's not forcing anyone, because I don't have to subscribe or use the product. I move on, don't I? Come on.
Wasn't it called the Globe Earth Lie or something? Are we talking about the same thing?
You're talking about the Globe Lite group, yeah, the Globe Lite tour. Yes, it was called the Globe Lite tour, where they toured all of Britain, and then in the following year they did Britain again with Ireland, right? And then they went to Europe. I thought they were good people. They weren't forcing on anybody. The one thing is the word force cannot be used in the situation of informing the public of a deception that's gone on. It's been brilliant. I thought they did a great job of it. Really, really clean, not rude, not antagonistic. They received a lot of abuse for their efforts, and, you know, humility, they had it. They were good people.
But wouldn't you say the same is true for Jehovah's Witnesses set up a stand on the street, or a Scientologist that does the same? You can understand how that's offensive to the person that might just see it as I see it with the advertising. I mean, we've obviously got a very different opinion about advertising as well, but we won't get into that today. You saw a Scientologist on the street.
Same thing, Nathan.
Go ahead, Neil.
It's the same thing that the Jehovah's do. When you're putting up a poster and you got people around you, and the poster says the Globe Earth Lie, you're doing basically the same thing that Jehovah's Witnesses are doing, that Scientologists are doing, and that Mormons are doing. Now, it might have been okay for the time, but I think we've moved way past that now, because we could just demonstrate how Earth is measured flat. and let the chips fall where they may. Let people critically think on their own.
Yeah. And how do you demonstrate that to the people? How do you demonstrate? You're going to engage with the public, or what? How are people going to know Earth is measured flat?
Well,
How do you do that without
okay,
engaging?
let me answer you. So for my sister, she was educated in celestial navigation when taught how flat Earth gets measured, but that was for the purposes of being able to go out on a boat, and she paid for the privilege. She gave the person money to achieve that. So to be taught that Earth was flat specifically, she paid for it.
Yeah, but I'm talking. You know, how do you engage with people? You have to talk to them, don't you? You have to speak to let,
No.
and then to go ahead and
No.
demonstrate that Earth is measured flat.
No,
How do you get that across?
I'm answering
to people?
no.
How do
You're
we
just
get
not-
that
you're just
across
not
to
stopping.
people?
No, I don't have to talk to anybody at all, ever. In fact, sometimes when people come and talk to me, I'm quite rude to them and tell them to go away. And they don't have any choice. They will go away. I've got that look that I give people. They know that they're not welcome around me. So no, I don't have to talk to anybody, but you're making it sound like it's an obligation. You said due diligence, and I disagreed then as well. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong for perceiving the world in this way. People do feel empathetic to the cause of society. Now, I'm not saying I'm unsympathetic to societal causes, but the fact that people are under this apprehension, nay, belief, they are entitled to it as far as I'm concerned. So I don't want to shove it down their throat with street activism with a poster because I'm very conciliatory and nicely spoken. You know, that is akin to pissing down someone's back and telling them it's raining, smiling while you do it. Well, because I've said it in a very softly spoken way, that makes it okay. I mean, I'm so used to dealing with the other end of that extreme from the baller side, the grinning Charles Flat Earth math character that is literally pissing down your back, not literally, is metaphorically pissing down your back and telling you it's raining, but they're doing it in such a softly spoken way. They're doing it so politely.
Or you can have a show for the past 10 years and a book coming out. And that's a good way to communicate.
There are many roads to getting the truth, and word of mouth is one of them. That's the number one way of getting a message across to people. And those who are interested will take on the message and go on and investigate and learn and find out, oh, Earth is measured flat. I never knew that. That's nothing. They are not committing a crime in any way, shape, or form. They're not forcing it down anybody. They're there informing, and that's fine. It's not a crime to do that. That's how they help people.
What? They don't need to know. That's why I'm trying to make an illustration with my sister, saying when she needed to know something about Earth and its measurement, she paid to be taught how to measure Earth flat with celestial navigation. So there was a purpose. But your average Joe on the street, when he replies, what difference does it make? You cannot in good faith say, well, if you don't know this, you might die when you're out on your boat. And the guy goes, I haven't got a boat. Well, when you survey the land to put a building up, you want it to make sure it doesn't collapse. Well, I'm not building anything. I'm not an engineer. Well, okay. Well, when you go out and you survey the topology of the land for a map, well, I'm not a cartographer. You know, these things are inconsequential. But when it is consequential, then, you know, I used to recruit for the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, and there's big money involved in becoming qualified. Big, big, big money. So to learn how to measure Earth flat, you pay the big bucks. But when you're saying, well, next man needs to know, does he? It's not consequential to him. He's not putting any buildings up, producing any maps or sailing or flying a plane or doing anything that involves actual Earth measurements. But all of those people who pay to learn how flat Earth is dealt with, they have a consequence if they don't understand how flat Earth is. And when they learn how Earth is, it is flat when they're paying to learn how to deal with it. Do you see what I mean?
Let me ask this question. Say it never goes any further than when it goes now. Does that make a difference? Is there still measured flat?
Yes, and the people who charge money to teach you how to deal with Earth will still charge money to teach you how flat it is, in spite of your religion. Your religion about being on a ball didn't come in, as far as my sister was concerned, when I've discussed this with her. At no point did they mention the contradiction of the ball religion when being paid to teach her how to measure Earth flat with angles and sextants. They just taught her how flat Earth was and how it was to be dealt with so she didn't die when out on her boat. And she handed over money to achieve that and get qualified. So she paid them to teach her how Earth was flat.
Wait, they didn't teach her about spherical excess and Habersign or anything like that?
No, they just taught her how to use angles to find her position with areas of equal elevation, aka celestial navigation. Should the GPS fail, this is what you'll need to be qualified in if you're going to be out on the boat. That's why your captain's, I've forgotten his name now, the guy that used to come that was always drunk, he knows about this stuff.
Johnny.
Johnny. Did he need to? Nah, it's redundant. But there's going to be a point where you go, uh-oh, everything's failed. Where the hell are we? Well, we were kind of going in this direction before all the electricity failed, but in the panic, I don't actually know where we are now. Well, we better figure it out or we'll die here. Yeah, who's qualified? Well, we always thought we'd have GPS to help us out. Okay. No, they make sure that you're qualified in it. So, yes, it might be redundant most of the time until your bleeding life depends on it. Then you're glad you paid your money and that they insisted on you being qualified to be on the boat and go out to sea. The point being, think about it in the terms that people say to us. What does it matter? What difference does it make? Well, none. You're not in charge of stopping people dying on a boat. None. You're not in charge of making sure the building don't fall down. None. You're not making sure that the maps are delivered correctly. You're not doing any of those things. So you, in terms of you knowing Earth's flat, is utterly inconsequential. Go away, you pathetic little man, and believe you're on a ball. I couldn't give a crap. But if you're going to do anything that involves me and my well-being, like flying a frickin' plane, I expect you to understand that you're flying parallel with the ground. So you don't fly into any other aircraft that are flying parallel with you at a flight level, so they don't hit each other. Those sort of life and death circumstances depend on the person being trained on how flat Earth is to not kill others. So those people, pilots, they pay big, big, big bucks to be taught how flat Earth is, don't they?
And they do it whether they believe the Earth is flat or a globe, regardless. I don't know how many times I've been told, don't shove your religion down my throat, when I just tell them the truth, that Jesus died for our sins, for example. Don't shove your religion down my throat. And that's kind of this is what we're talking about. is do you tell people, you force them to believe that the Earth is flat, or do you just point out how we measure the Earth and that they do it whether they believe the Earth is a ball or not? Their beliefs about our cosmology is irrelevant to the truth of how they actually operate in reality. There's the big comment I get. There is not a single pilot that believes the Earth is flat. I agree. Probably, a majority of pilots who don't believe that the Earth is flat, and they believe that the Earth is a ball, but they still operate in reality, in the truth that they need horizontal for everything.
Yeah, well, that's in reality. Now, there's big money in the globe. I mean, look what you got. You got global warming, right? You got all of these things that, it generates big, big money. So the world is going to be a globe until it's not producing any more money for anybody. You got chemtrails, that's the geoengineering. It's to prevent global warming, right? Keep that globe alive every step of the way and snap that money away from you.
Yeah, I released a video about chemtrails. I called it Feast of Nonsense Part 1 Chemtrails yesterday. Did you watch that?
Yeah, I did watch it. A lot of us were in the chat, and still in the chat. It was live, calling me and you an idiot. that this is obvious to a duck, but when push came to shove, nobody can give me any chemicals that came out of the plane. I just got a bunch of the sky's white. They're blocking out the sun. I'm like, what were the chemicals used? Well, I don't know.
Right. So one man's feast of nonsense that's consequential to him is inconsequential to the next man who has a different feast of nonsense. So these same people that were critical of Jin for wanting to hold on to his feast of nonsense about the 9/11 truth that he, deals with. And more power to you, Jin. I'm not having a go at you. Please don't step in. My example will go somewhere else, I promise. These same people who are prepared to knock Jin for that will hang on with their fingernails to the bullshit they want to spew that they've dealt with since 1999, right? Like,
That's correct.
Okay. So, yeah, it's just one man's feast of nonsense versus the next.
That's exactly what happened the other day. And it went on for hours, and it went on even while you played the show yesterday. People that were in chat. I even had freaking Guns and Navarone leave your chat, go into Discord, and from what I was told, rip me to shreds, calling me dumb as a bag of nails, including you too, Nathan, which he later apologized for.
I don't
But
care.
people that are heavily invested in something are not going to let it go.
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? I don't care. So when it came to Jin, there's a lot more passion behind my wanting him, for his benefit, to understand what science is. When it comes to chemtrails, because there was no assertions of scientific validity, I didn't have any skin in the race, so I didn't care. So I was kind of indifferent. The insults can just roll off water off a duck's back. And it's like, well, no offence to, who was it that we were arguing with? Harp, right? The same applies, right? Because I don't have any skin in the race of 9/11 or of chemtrails, I can let it be inconsequential, let the insults roll off me. Yeah. So therefore, when it comes to science, it's only literally in the last couple of days I've started to realise the consequences of it not being our subject. Like, so we don't need it. We only need it to invalidate the bullshitters when they come along and use these words to validate their bullshit. But for us wanting to undermine Next Man, well, why is Next Man doing that? Well, because the little fart sniffer wants to convince himself that he's got the truth. That's why. He's only hijacking science because he wants it to be more valid than it necessarily is. Otherwise, he wouldn't need to grease the skids by claiming things are science. When you're talking about whatever's needing the greasing of the skids to be performed with these scientific words. Like I said in the beginning of this live show, when it comes to talking about a flat earth measurement, do I need to say, the scientists say it's parallel? No, I don't need to do that. Flight level is just flight level. It's like self-explanatory. What, you don't like flight level? Okay. I don't need to give you a logical consistency. If they were curving and they were trying to maintain an altitude given to them by ground control, there's a likelihood that at some point they'll cross each other's paths on a curved trajectory with respect to a curved sea level. And none of these things tie up in terms of the axioms being described. You either accept them or you don't. Arguing about them just gives the guy who's arguing for the antithesis of the axiom the ability to believe for just a smallest of moment that he might be right when he violates an axiom. It's like, I don't care. Violate it. It won't change how the plane deals with the ground. Like I say, those people are paying big money to be taught how Earth's flat. You, it's inconsequential if you know. You don't need to know. That's true. The public doesn't need to know. They don't need to know it's flat. It's only the people who are actually dealing with it, measuring it, that have it flat. And when you come to try and validate your bull belief with Earth measurements, you'll measure Earth flat too, right? Want an example? Simon Dan. When you actually come to measuring Earth flat, you can then lie about how you've acquired elevation angles from the surface level? Say that the surface level wasn't level, that it wasn't an angle? Yeah, you can go to that hard place where you have to deny the measurements you've just made. But when it actually comes to anybody trying to validate their belief in a globe with Earth measurements, they just measure it flat every time. Because you can't measure it any other way. Now, for a folly, That's to say, to derive a radius, to calculate a radius with your flat Earth elevation angles that you've taken thousands of times. You can try and square those circles cognitively. But it's just a folly. You're doing it for fun. Dan was doing that measurement process for fun. He's not doing anything of any consequence. He's not building anything or mapping anything or travelling anywhere with his measurements. He's just doing it to affirm his religious belief. And even then, he's still measuring it flat to do so. So who cares? We're going to argue that his folly's wrong. Just a folly. He's doing it for fun. Like us when we tracked the sun 10 years ago. Did we do anything with the information? Was it of any consequence to anybody? No. I mean, we debunked the Gleasons. Who gives a crap? We weren't doing anything of any consequence. But when it comes to the surveyors, the map makers, the people who fly and sail, they'll damn well know it's flat or they'll kill people. It's just that simple. So they'll pay the big money to learn how flat it is. Now, in the education process, they're not being taught the contradiction, which is what Jim wants from us when we teach Next Man about how flat it is. But Next Man doesn't need to know. Who cares? He's not controlling an aeroplane or sailing. So who gives a crap if Next Man knows it's flat? You don't need to know, little man. But you'll find out if you measure it like Dan did. Then you'll find out, all right, hurry, how flat it is. Because you'll be measuring it flat thousands of times. For a folly that affects nobody. Dead.
You had Tune on the other day. I think Vaxwax went there. I don't know if he's in Discord, but he went in there. And what they're crying for is they want to see the measurements of Earth.
Who wants to see what of what?
Tune wants to see the measurements of Earth.
Who?
As he explains how he's measuring Earth.
Who wants this? I didn't hear you. You said it twice. I just didn't catch it.
Oh, sorry, Nick Tune.
Tune's measured Earth. He measured it with elevation angles. You want measurements? I'll use yours. Here you go. Here's yours. He just doesn't want the ones that he's measured. Okay. I mean, I have told that man 102 times that he has flat Earth measurements of his own. So now he's out asking for the measurements. Wow. How hilarious.
Yeah, in the same breath, he's saying, I went to Florida, I took an elevation angle to wherever. And then they went over their trip, how they took elevation angles to wherever they were measuring to. And he's asking for measurements as he's measuring Earth flat. Go figure.
Yeah, not wanting to face the awful truth is all that is.
I put it in Master B with a timestamp if you want to hear it.
Hear what?
Yeah, Vax Wax and Mick Tune, and then some lady comes in and starts asking him questions. And then he goes through how he measured Earth.
So let me get it straight. He's asking for the measurements. And then somebody, random stranger, comes in, starts asking about measurements. And he says, here's my measurements.
Correct.
That's just priceless. Shout out to Unitox Femu. What is better for cog dis? Nutrition, Nurofen or paracetamol? Isn't Nurofen a brand of paracetamol? I'm pretty sure Nurofen just is paracetamol. Maybe that's his point. Can't treat cognitive dissonance with a painkiller. When I say seeking pain relief, that mental pain isn't the same as a migraine or period pain. It's mental pain. And cognitive dissonance, holding two positions simultaneously that are incongruent with one another, isn't something that you can solve with a painkiller. It's not that type of receptor that's being stimulated when you can't square a circle because they're in contradiction with one another. You can't make them not contradict by taking pain relief, like medical pain relief, like oral pain relief. Thank you for the super chat, though, Unitox Femi. Really appreciate it. Right, we're coming up on the hour. Wow, doesn't time fly when you're having fun? I changed the name of the show already because I decided what the title was going to be. Don't need to know. A new sentiment. So back in the day, you had Validation Boy saying, well, let's just keep this to ourselves. So you can sneer, basically, at next man, like under your breath. That was his sentiment. He didn't say it in those terms, but that's kind of what he meant. You just know something that they don't. That just makes you better than them, but just keep it to yourself that you're better than them while you know something that they don't. Why would you feel compelled to share it with them? Well, I'm saying something slightly different. My sentiment is you don't need to know how flat Earth is. When it gets measured, it'll be flat. People who have consequence to those facts. But you're not one of them. So it doesn't matter if you know. Who cares if you know? What difference does it make if you know how flat Earth is measured? Doesn't. You don't need to know. It's a very different sentiment.
Yeah, I don't think the flat earthers that I've associated with and the ones that I've mentioned go around thinking that they're better than anybody else. That's not what they want to do. They're sharing information. That's all they're doing. That's a human thing to do. That's normal to share information. Now, those who want to understand and delve into it will, and those who don't. That's it. It's like you don't sweat it. And that's been their demeanor all along. They're not shoving it down people's throats. And the guy that said, I don't shove Jesus Christ down my throat. The question is, what was that guy doing in the first place for it to end up in that situation? Right. So, you know, it's okay to share information. Nothing wrong with that at all. And I think that's a good thing. So if people find out that the earth is indeed flat and they're not living on the spinning ball, it might make them look into other things where there's deceptions going on. And that's a good thing. You're learning about the world you live in and what's going on around you. Nothing wrong with that.
Okay, beyond self-enlightenment, though, learning, as you put it, what benefit is there if you have a guy on the street walk past, you're a anti-globe activist, anti-glober, with his posters about the world's not a sphere, we've been lied to. That man walks past the stand, has a little conversation with you personally, Jin, about how Earth's not a sphere. And at the end, he goes, wow, can't believe I've been lied to. Earth's actually flat. The world is not a spherical surface as I was taught in school. That's amazing. What difference does it make? Like now that guy knows.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, he may go on to inform the members of his family because he's now emotionally happy about the fact. You understand? He may then, another individual may get closer to God, for example. So there are many things that happen. It depends on the individual as to how it affects them personally. That's down to them. The point is they've learned that Earth is measured flat, for example. That's amazing. It really is. God's creation. As after all, we don't even know how we came. We don't even know how the Earth was created. But to find out that it's not this crazy stupid balling universe really does relieve a lot of emotion within you. Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Externalize it though. I gotcha. So I tried to phrase it as beyond the enlightenment the individual sees. So you're saying that guy sees enlightenment as an individual, but what difference does it make on a wider scale beyond that person? So because if you had somebody who didn't know how to do engineering to build buildings and then they learn, or somebody who didn't know, let's use my sister, somebody who doesn't know how to navigate, learns how to navigate, what difference does it make? Well, they might carry people out to different locations. They might benefit the world in that methodology. If they get lost, hopefully she won't kill them. You know, she might run a boat and bring commerce across the oceans. You know, there's a whole raft of things that could make a difference for her specifically, learning celestial navigation and how Earth is flat when measuring it to not die at sea and become qualified to go out on a boat. So I can qualify how that makes a difference. Speculative, but you know what I'm saying? And I'm asking, for the guy who finds out from the activists on the street, what difference does it make? What could be described beyond his introspection thereafter, or his enlightenment about God thereafter? What difference does it make to the world at large when this man finds out? What difference does it make?
Okay, so to the world at large, that's not aware of the deception, it's not going to make any difference to their lives because they're not aware of it as yet. But the individual who has been enlightened, it has changed his life. That's the difference it makes. It has changed that individual's life. To the world at large that I haven't spoken to yet, it's not going to change anything in their lives at the moment.
I've got an anecdote.
Go on.
There's a man who was convinced that he was dead. His family was distraught because he was always just saying, "Oh, I'm dead." And they couldn't figure out a way to convince him that he wasn't dead. Everything they tried never worked. And they finally figured out they were going to take him to a doctor and have the doctor explain to him that he's not dead. The doctor came up with this wise little test. He said, "Sir, I think we both can agree that dead people don't bleed, right?" And the guy kind of agreed. He said, "Here." Then he takes a needle and he sticks his finger and he bleeds. And he says, there, you're bleeding. Dead people don't bleed. And the guy looks at his bloody finger and he goes, "Huh, I guess dead people really do bleed." There are people that will believe what they believe. And when you show them even the truth and the evidence, then they will still, many of them, not all of them, but many of them will say, I guess dead people do bleed. That's
Sure.
the best you can do.
Sure, but if I
And
tally
then you
onto
let
that
them
example,
have their belief.
if I tally
Sorry to
onto that
cut you off
example,
there.
if I just follow on from that example, he's not going to be a cardiovascular surgeon, is he? The guy that's getting his finger pricked. So moving forward, him internally recognizing that he's not dead, or by contrast, recognizing that he's alive, isn't going to affect the wider world. His delusion is completely his own, internal only. And if you can force him to be enlightened about his own consciousness and being in an alive state, in this example, won't change anything. The world will not be a better place for him realizing all of a sudden that he's not dead, or however you phrase that, right? It's a double negative, but you know what I'm getting at. And the same is true for the guy who finds out Earth is flat most of the time. Beyond telling others that they have a religious belief, like passing on that information. But unless that person's going to go out and become a surgeon, vascular surgeon, who cares? It's not going to affect anything or anybody. Unless that person's going to go out and become a map maker or a pilot or a sailor, who cares? They don't need this information. It doesn't affect anybody but that person. And in Jin's example, initially, his example was that it might be depressing. Like, it might not affect them in the positive initially. And we are suffering the brunt of that negativity when it's projected straight back onto us. So as much as it's like, well, due diligence says that we should tell people, well, for what benefit? What does it actually help? How does it help? It doesn't. People knowing that they've been deceived, well, if that eventually completely fell as a system, the heliocentric deception, that is, there'd be a new one introduced. Now, you might say, oh, a bit pessimistic, and it's like, well, people have been kept under control by this, the governments or the churches or whoever it is that's currently in control, since as far as history can tell us that has been the case. So it's far from me to believe that suddenly, if I enlighten people about the current deception, it won't just be a cause to usher in a new one. But when you look at what would push the needle in terms of helping humanity, well, potentially the exploration of the world could be a benefit if people understood and appreciated how to navigate the world. Let's say we had more sailors, more pilots, more navigators, and they would all need to measure Earth flat and be aware of those facts to be able to navigate and to potentially find new worlds. But then you come full circle to say, well, perhaps that is the reason we have a heliocentric indoctrination, so that you can have this statement that there's not any more land being made, therefore the value can only go up. That serves people's ends. It benefits people. That benefits people. The control of deception when it comes to heliocentrism does benefit, serves a benefit to people, to indoctrinate them, that is. But for the average common man to find out that it isn't what they've been indoctrinated with only serves a benefit if they then go out and become that navigator. They become a pilot. They try and look for new land. That might actually benefit a wider expanse of people beyond the introspection or finding God or whatever it is that we've detailed thus far. Food for thought. Anybody want to add anything before I round out the live show? Clearly not. With that, I'll say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming Streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow.
To be fucked down the road. That's pretty obvious. But even though we all know that, is that who can change that? Is it supposed to be the government stopping us from being poor, or is it supposed to be us as the individual? So the real fix to this is the individual needs to realize what logical fallacies are. They are just not going to do that.
Exactly. Like I was told by Steve A that I got to learn how to count because the money system is corrupt. And I said, no, I got to take responsibility for how I live my life. I didn't do things that I was supposed to do. I have to take responsibility somewhere, don't I?
How could you accept flat Earth if you don't want to accept truth? Flat Earth is just one of the basic truths. I was over in Earth Awakening, smacking them over the head with the scientific method. Somebody had said that they want somebody on FED. They offered me to debate Jenny, and I'm like, for what? I'm not here. Somebody tried to debate me on philosophy, talking about the original pillars of what the scientific method was, and then they started talking about philosophy. And I said, let me ask you something. Heat is what I'm going to use to apply to my kettle to boil my water. What does anything you said have to do with that? Nothing. Right. While whatever you said may be valid and some nice, mental masturbation, it doesn't discount the fact that there's a basic method for understanding our physical and natural world by having a question of what is causing a natural phenomena, to then go on to test and see if you can figure out what the independent variable is. Anything outside of that is just not that. The fact that people won't accept that and they try to accept, well, that what if you, measure how long it takes a golf ball to go through the air with no ridges versus ridges? Isn't that science? No, it's not. But it just like when they were like, okay, well, the reason I can't accept that is because you guys don't know what science is and you have to do it this way and that way. And, they were pushed to make a logical statement or whatever, a logical syllogism as to how the earth is a globe, and they failed because all they could do is affirm the consequent. I said, I guarantee I could tell you that it's flat without doing that. What did I do? I just went through the method of how planes land and how planes ascend. I said, did I have to tell you if this and that? Everyone agreed, no. I said, there you go. Yeah, I told you the earth is flat just by telling you what somebody is going to do. I didn't have to tell you anything else. You didn't have to, if this, accept that philosophy, this. It's that simple. I felt like I wanted that. But of course, there were Glovers there and some flat earthers there that I guess found it hard to accept that the scientific method is what it is and what they're trying to call science is not. Because once you tell them what they're saying is not science, they want to pull into question the scientific method. So I'm like, okay, so are we questioning the scientific method, or are you trying to use something as science? Which one is it not valid, or let me know? Anyway, that's my rant for today, I guess.
So what you're saying is when people have something invested in something, they're going to want to use science. They're going to try to fit science into what they are heavily invested in. That's it. It's very simple. Observe something in nature. Observe a phenomena in nature. So, golf balls, what the heck is that?
Yeah, you must check off all three words before moving on from step one. It must be observed, it must be natural, and it must be a phenomenon.
That's correct. Step one. So, it has nothing to do with science, and then you say golf balls.
And then they say, so science isn't capable of answering all questions. I said, that's correct. I said, the only thing that the method is concerned about is determining the cause of the phenomena that you're questioning, the natural phenomena, of course. Like
Right,
that's the
cause of an
only
effect in
purpose.
nature.
So,
Right.
so if your purpose isn't looking for that, you're not doing that. Like, I don't know what's so complicated about that. You're not doing that, you're doing something else.
Exactly. But they want it to be applied science because it gives what they are claiming validity. Very simple. Somebody posted a whole bunch of things in Master B the other day of what they found about science. And it's a joke because they start out good and then they end bad. Or some of them start out foolish right from the beginning. Observations, repeatable observations.
It has to be those three criteria. Or you already know the cause. It's synthetic, it's man-made.
Why has it all gone quiet while I'm getting a pot noodle?
You hear us?
Yeah, we're talking. Just stop for 1 second, maybe two, possibly three. Sometimes people got to contemplate what's being said.
I just went on a whole rant. I gave you guys the Eli rant of the day about how I was over at Earth Awakenings, smashing them over the head with the scientific method. They were basically in one mouth saying that, science is limited, or, we can use, science in this way, insert some type of synthetic, thing. And my whole point to them was, listen, if you're not trying to ascertain the cause of something, then you're just not doing science. It's that simple. And they even wanted so apparently Jen is supposed to debate somebody on FED about the scientific method. But so here was my point. Sorry, Jen.
You
so
serious?
here's my point.
Howard,
So it was someone asked me, since I'm an FED panel member, to debate him, and I didn't even respond to it. It's like,
Ken don't know what
But-
science is, so why would you be debating him?
But my whole thing was they'll say, oh, this is science when they're talking about something synthetic, But then when I'm saying, no, the scientific method is you observe a natural phenomena and then you hypothesize what the independent variable is to then test it. That's it. And either you're saying science is valid or you're saying science. So then they give me this whole philosophy and why science is what not valid. So I said, so what does anything you said have to do with the fact that I can apply heat to my kettle to boil the water? Nothing. Right. So what you're saying has nothing to do with the fact that the scientific method is absolutely sound. And they're like, well, how do you know? And I'm like, okay, where's the question in what I just said? What causes water to boil? Heat. Boom. One and done. There you go. What is there to question? What's confusing?
There isn't. I went through this coincidentally, Eli, in the pre-show. The semantics of it, the Socratic methodology of agreeing with your discussion partner on the terms of what science is less important than appreciating what the method itself affords you, empirical evidence, when trying to establish the cause of an effect you've observed. That's useful. If next man gets it, is irrelevant. Knowing how to use and employ the method to provide yourself some proof, that's useful. Oh, right, you don't agree with the description. Then you ask yourself, well, why are we arguing about it? Chances are because they want to grease the skids for some bullshit they've got and call that science. So their ends aren't the same as the ends that are achieved by actually knowing what the scientific method's for. But it's understanding the process of the method, not the semantics of the definitions of it. Who cares? All right, you want to define it differently. Why? Oh, because you need to lend some weight to your shit that you're about to spew. Me, I just understand it's a method of proving things. What? Oh, no, it's also the modern science of psychology. Fuck off.
Yeah, it's still invalid to promote a bull narrative.
I'm still confused on the debate.
Yeah, are you serious, Eli?
Mm-hmm.
So are they just throwing Jin in the debate, or is Jin requesting this debate? I'm a little
No, I don't.
confused.
I have no idea. I have no idea. Maybe we can ask Jen if Jen is around.
Yeah, get to the source.
Well, is Jin still here? Ask him.
You hear, Jen?
Jin CBR1 is here.
Okay. Away from keyboard?
I don't see him, so.
But yeah, there's nothing to debate. It's empirical and it's untainted by man. This is how something is occurring in nature. And the elucidation of it, it's still occurring in nature, unaffected by man. It's natural, observed phenomenon. And its cause.
How do you humble yourself when you think you know something? Like, I didn't know it when I came here and I started hearing what science really was. I was like, oh, okay. So Lucas Morley is not an experiment. I get it now. I accepted my ignorance in the topic.
You can validate other things without the scientific method. You're just not using the scientific method. Therefore, just not be stealing the valor of science to promote some bold narrative.
And the thing is, what we talk about has nothing to do with science. Talking about measurements of Earth. Does that fall into the scientific category?
No, it's separate. And you try to invoke it, it's a category error. You know, the measurements of Earth are not science. They're flat.
And who tries to invoke it? Always. When we first came into this topic, it was the whole body of science knows Earth is a globe.
Yeah, that's what they were doing too. They were trying to come up with that's what it was, a scientific something, a scientific hypothesis for how the is a globe by setting it up by saying it can't be flat,
Dude.
blah 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 blah. And I was like, look. First of all, I already told you guys what science is and what science isn't. I said I can pretty much tell you how it's flat without any of that. That's what I did. You know my go-to use it. I don't think I'll ever use anything else. I'm cool with they use trigonometry for landing and ascending planes. Like I don't care what you want to talk about. Like it's
Spherical trig.
Angles from hell and Dingleberry Earth nonsense again.
What are you doing, Nathan?
Spherical axis. Spherical distance.
Man, what are you doing, Nathan? Use that mic of yours.
Again?
I said, what are you doing being so quiet? Use that mic of yours.
I'm just leaning back. Because I'm finished the live show, I'm relaxed. If I sit up on my mic, I'm perfectly clear, I'm sure.
Yeah, it is. Where is Jen? Come on, Jen. Make this after show interesting. I don't want to argue anything. I want to know what's going on. Like, why are people requesting that perhaps you and I go at it on a debate? What is that about?
People are suggesting that you debate with Jin about what?
The scientific method. I said, that's ridiculous because Jin don't know what it is. So why would it be debating it?
A debatable subject. I've tried.
Exactly.
I've done it twice in the show. I'll do it a third time now, right? The method affords you proof. That's it. So that's useful if you follow the method and understand the method because you want to employ it. Now, the people who want to argue about the semantics of the definitions of science, they're not needing science. They're not trying to prove something. They're just trying to lend credibility to whatever bullshit they're spewing. About understanding it. It doesn't matter if you and I agree on the definition of science, right? The method will still be useful for proving things if followed correctly, because it's got empiricism built into the hypothesis. So if you understand that, you can utilize it to prove things. That's useful. Oh, but no, it's much more valid that you and I agree on the terminology. No, it's not. Secondary. It might be useful if we can communicate what science is amongst ourselves. But are either of us performing the method while we're agreeing on the Socratic method of whether or not we have the definition correct between ourselves? No, that's inconsequential to whether or not science will prove things if actually used correctly. And to use it correctly, you'd have to understand the method. But if next man doesn't get it, who cares? Were you about to go and do some science? What science were you going to do? Oh, engineering. That's not science. No, but you want me to believe that what you say about it is true, therefore you need me to understand that science isn't all about proving things, because when you use the valor of science to suggest that you've proved things, it doesn't need to have gone through the empirical method of proving things. That's where we're going with this discussion when we discuss the semantics of the definition of a method. The method's important, not the semantical definition.
I understand now. I get it. Okay. Many people died on 9/11. It's important that it's proven scientifically because people have to get their, you know, they have to be, what do you call that? When somebody was done wrong?
No, there's nothing scientific. There's nothing scientific to do. A lot of people unnecessarily lost their lives. They said it was an airplane. Okay,
scientific about 9/11?
But also the firefighters said that there were bombs. The official story is there was no such thing. However, that can't possibly be the case because it was on the news. So that's it. That's literally it. I didn't do any science, but that's what it was. The official narrative is bullshit because we experienced it. The end. I don't need any more proof than that. What the seriously?
Well, the people that need to be reciprocated for their loss, they're gonna latch on to architects.
No, latch on to what I said. That's all you need. Latch on to what I said because that's all you need. Why is what I said not all you need? Because it is what it is. What do you need all the other stuff for?
Sounds better. If you can
Am I
say it's
crazy, Nathan?
scientifically validated.
Or does the opponent need you to do all of that so that you can get into this endless debate about what not to do or what to do if something should happen at some point in the future? No, the bottom line is right here and right now, the earth is measured flat. Like, what are we talking about? Forget all that nonsense you're talking about. If you're not talking about anything real, I guess I'll go on about my day. The problem with that is they need me, right? But they've lost me. If there were more people concerned about themselves, the enemy would lose them too.
Yeah, stick to what you can prove.
Yeah, that's what we were saying the other day with what do you call it? Chemtrails. Stick to what you can prove.
I've got a strong belief they cause impotence. Very strong.
That was funny.
We should be very concerned. Well, our floppy
So
dicks.
basically, Nathan Hawk was trying to imitate you when he was saying all of that stuff.
Who was trying to imitate me?
I'm like, Nathan does not respond that way unless the guy's being a total idiot.
Yeah, I would say that I have a strong agreement at the strength of Arnold Schwarzenegger with you, Nathan, on that one.
What I was doing, Eli, was I couldn't get it across to them with reason and logic that if you can't prove something, then don't make claims about it, right? You just stick to what you know, as Neil's just admirably pointed out. And then I gave them contrasting examples with chemtrails specifically, where, okay, here's the official narrative on contrails, and I'll lay it out with the same standard as evidence that you're giving me. But of course, when I give it, it's not accepted. It's like, well, I've got photos. Look, I've got hundreds of photos of these contrails in the sky. They do it in the morning, and then the contrails. No, I won't accept that. The photos don't prove that they're contrails. It's like, what? So the exact same standard you've given me doesn't apply? That didn't work. So I'm like, how can I get my message across? I know I'll lean into their rhetoric, but even more extreme than they have. So then I'm like, right, you're absolutely correct. It is definitely chemicals that are causing us to be impotent. All of us. We should all be very afraid. Now, because I'm taking it to that extra extreme beyond the standard that they've provided, suddenly it seems ludicrous. Well, it's definitely causing cancer. Look at my pictures, I've got thousands of them. Seems really stupid when you take it one step further than they've already taken it. So we end up with me saying, yeah, it's causing a lot of floppy dicks.
Well, the cancer rate has gone up in children in the past 25 years.
Yeah, that's what Vaxi said. So he tried to err into leaning into what I'm doing. I'm trying to make a mockery of it by making it more extreme. And he's like, well, the cancer rate in kids has gone up over the last 40 years. You're like, oh, well, that's definitely chemtrails then.
You missed it, Eli. It was a 12-hour marathon. That's why you always got to keep popping back in, because you never know when it's going to be a full half day. Then we had Riggs come in from Worldwide Debate Server. And he was just asked a little question about science. And he started flipping out on Nathan as well. You know, because Kool-Aid, wicked science Kool-Aid.
Is that what it was after he popped in? That what all things are natural?
Yep.
Wow.
Again, it's always the same. Somebody needs to lend credibility to some bullshit they're spewing, so they'll want to defend the idea that science can deal with basically anything. It's very broad. No, it isn't. If you want to actually prove things. Oh, well, I mean, the new science of non-science doesn't need to prove things. In fact, it doesn't disprove things. It only disproves. Like, what are you babbling about?
Knowledge. It's knowledge, Nathan.
Make believing that it's an ongoing convoluted mess, therefore the convoluted mess proves something.
Yeah, meanwhile, understanding the method of science does actually lead you to proving things. That's what it's useful for. But it's more important that you understand what the method is than being able to define it to next man. Because if you want to use it, it's like back to you don't need to know what the scientific method is. You're not doing anything with it. So what you want to believe that it's got nothing to do with proving things and everything to do with the synthetic and men in white coats describing things accurately. Okay, good for you. Over here, the people following the method of proving things and advancing humanity.
Yeah, he's still going to boil water in nature, whether you know or believe it or not.
Well, it's not that. It's just the methodology for figuring out cause won't alter. And that methodology will be empirical for those who want to prove things empirically. But there will be people out there, there'll always be people who want to steal the valor of that method to lend credence to their bullshit. Like, well, okay, well, how does your bullshit get proven? Well, because I call it science. That's why. Well, okay, well, what's science? Oh, well, it's definitely not for proving things. Why would you want to steal the valor from it then?
So they can promote their bull like we've repeated here.
Or promote what they feel is very important. Right? So if you feel something is very important, you're going to promote it as it's validated by science.
Yeah, but you can do that through other means, and it still be occurring in reality. Hence, it's a synthetic method. Okay, you proved every step of the way that it was proven through the synthetic method, but it's not science. Science is empirical through the elucidation of cause and effect of an observed natural phenomena, and it must meet all three of those words in order to go anywhere. So be it systematically, you proved how this synthetically cause and effect, and it's validated through, your civil engineering or your structural analysis and
Yeah, it don't have the same
so forth. And yeah, you
science
proved
work
it.
does.
Just don't steal science and the valor of it.
Doesn't have the
Exactly.
same power. Come on, CC.
It
Gotta
doesn't have the same
that
convincing.
Science says.
Yeah, it doesn't convince people as easily. If you say, yeah, I've troubleshooted this, they say, well, how well did you troubleshoot it? What was your method? But if you just say, no, the scientists looked at the method at the metals. Oh, really? The scientists looked? Yeah. What science? Knowing things. Oh, I see. So they know then. Yeah, definitely. Because that's what science means. And we've just called these engineers scientists. So therefore they know. Because science is knowing.
Applied science.
Applied science means we know things. That's right, Neil.
Well, you can borrow from what the scientific method is to put this synthetic effect through the same steps as the scientific method. Just, the naturally observed phenomena doesn't matter. We know it's man, but let's put it through the steps anyway.
Yeah, we already know the cause, man making it. But let's validate the cause anyway, put it through the steps, this synthetic man-made thing that we know that man made. We need to know what caused it, even though we already know what caused it. It's synthetic.
So very rich. At that point in the conversation, they say, we're not trying to determine the cause.
Yeah, we just want you to understand that we've got the knowledge and we know when we tell you. So just accept what we've told you as the knowledge. It's science. We're not trying to establish cause here or anything.
And it's crazy because it has nothing to do with Earth being flat at all.
No, it's just been used by bullshitters. That's it. It was only ever being utilised to prop up a narrative when they said science. And demean us by calling us science deniers, right?
Exactly. And also, Cuddles came in yesterday when I have documents, government documents, that they were spraying the skies. I said, okay, so because the document says what they were spraying, that means it was being done? Really?
Yeah, then he went into the soil, that it wasn't there in the area before as well.
Well, that's evidence. No, that's not bad. See, that I would have paid attention to.
Yeah, but where's the samples of the soil? And how do you know it wasn't caused by anything else?
And did you observe the particles going from the chemtrails into the soil?
That's different.
Yeah, we'd need to show that. But it's a start, isn't it? It's more than just saying, look at my photos of these trails.
Yeah, I didn't hear him mention anything about soil. That had to be when I left.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was
it
just
was
before I
documents.
left. Yeah, and then I came back. But yeah, that you can start to sink your teeth into. It's actually, demonstrating that this, synthetically is causing that, effect.
Well, maybe we could, like you say, it's a starting point to investigate. Doesn't prove that's the case. You
Yeah, not absolute, but it's something to, okay, let me be absolute more specific that, yeah, it's a starting point that you can start to actually demonstrate that it's occurring. It's a starting point. It's something that it's just pulling a bullcrap narrative and you're not even receiving the same measure, that you're measuring unto me, that you're just hand wave dismissing. oh, I have photos. I have this. And okay, well, then I can do that too. And it's still not going to prove anything. You actually have to demonstrate that it's actually occurring in 3D reality. You have to have something to actually demonstrate that it's occurring in 3D reality.
Now, give me a sample of the stuff that they were putting on these planes before they went up and started spraying the skies, to prevent global warming. Oh, boy.
Yeah, then you can start to show with each step that, oh, it's coming out the exhaust. This is the breakdown and the chemical breakdown of it. Then it being deposited into the soil. And that, yes, you can actually, in 3D reality, redundant, but yeah, you can actually show that it's causing that. This causing that. Not just hearsay, not just narratives, not just other nonsense, which actually gets away from what we disseminate here. The Earth being measured flat and what you can prove.
Somebody doing something nefarious isn't exactly realm where you're dipping into hard science, and you guys are suggesting flying behind a commercial airliner.
No.
Which I don't think anyone's ever done.
No.
Hold on. You didn't say anything about soil when I was
on the
there.
person making the claim. I'm not suggesting.
Yeah, I know. You were spurging too bad. You left before we could actually have a conversation about it.
Because you're telling me you got documents.
I remember.
But I'll just say it one more time.
No, I have something to do.
It's not incumbent on us to suggest you do anything to prove your claim. I'm not saying you need to go and fly behind a plane and gather up anything. Now, if that's what you choose to do to standard your claim, then that's up to you to do. I'm not going to do it. I don't care. What I would say is you haven't done that.
Well, hand wave dismissing what actually is in reality, like aluminum oxide, titanium dioxide causing cancer. Okay, titanium dioxide is not normally found in soil samples across many countries, but then this starts happening, and then soil samples come in with stuff that's not found in topsoil.
You're saying it's correlated.
Now,
that's called a correlation.
Could it not be?
So,
I mean, they did pass documents in every country suggesting the spraying of everything.
I urge you, don't question proof me. Just affirm what I've said. That would be a correlation then.
Well, cause effect. I mean, it doesn't just get there by itself.
I didn't say cause and effect. That's not what I said.
People put it there. You want to
invent different words that I didn't say. I'll say it a third time because you don't seem to be.
Yeah, but it's still correlation. Yeah, I get what
correlation.
Saying.
Correlation's not causation, though, is it? Until you prove it.
Well, stuff in the sky is there.
It
falls. It goes to the soil. Stuff that's not normally found on the soil is now found on the soil. That's a cause. So you're just skipping right over reality.
You're spurging through
me,
cool. Having a little conniption fit through me, spurging. No, your crappy correlation you can believe, your shitty standard, you can take that. I won't. I'm not a retard. But you can accept this correlation all you like. Me, I'm not spurging over this shitty correlation you've got. I don't need to. Spurg some more with your correlation. Carry on spurging over your correlation.
That isn't all I said that I had.
Just carry on
thanks
spurging.
for ending the conversation. No, it's cool. It's cool. It's over.
You're spurging
There's
over
no
your
need to have it
correlations.
because you're going to hand wave. You're going to hand wave dismiss everything, just like you guys were just doing.
So it's a correlation. I'm not hand waving anything. Pointing out the flaws in your pathetic logic as you spurg over this crap that you haven't proven. You've just got a little correlation for it. That's crap. How pathetic an individual are you to accept correlations as proof? What a moron. Carry on spurging with your correlations, dum-dum. How do you like it?
Yeah, I know. You're not listening. I know.
Sorry,
the whole
I did
point
listen
was to do this.
I did listen
to not
to you.
listening to hand wave dismiss and to talk through me.
Wanker.
I know.
Wanker, I'm going to remove you if you carry on being a complete wanker. I haven't ignored you. I've addressed you directly and made you look like a complete fucking retard with your correlative evidence. Because that's all it is. That's not me ignoring and hand-waving you, is it? It's me pointing out that you've taken a correlation and then in your Asperger syndrome nonsense that you got from the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual that you've decided to throw at me like it's an insult. Yeah, I can do that too, but just to much greater effect when I, with evidentiary standards of correlation that you're using, call you a spurg dick. That's what I've done. I didn't hand-wave you. Do you understand, moron? That you've summarised incorrectly when you said I hand-waved you. No, I made you look like a fucking retard. That's what I did. Spurgo. You understand, Spurgo? Correlation's not causation. Spurgo. Are you deaf? No, I've got nothing to say. Just spurging into your abyss with your correlations, right? Yeah, you carry on spurging with your correlations, dum-dum. Meanwhile, we have a standard here that's a lot higher than these spurgos who like to look at correlations and go, well, that's definitely the cause then. That's just people being retarded. We have a much higher standard. We don't hand-wave things here, as much as we get accused of by the mentally deficient.
Okay, sorry, Nathan. So what would be the next thing you do, right? You're seeing this happening in various different areas that the soil...
Don't care. It's not our burden. Couldn't give a shit what these spurgos do when they decide that a correlation's causation. These spurgos can accept that. You can accept this shitty low standard that's garbage for your belief in chemtrails. You can do that, you complete fucking retard. That's what you can do. Me, I've got much higher standards than you because I'm not dim-witted. What's that? I can hand-wave it, can I? Yeah, I can. I can hand-wave this shite that you've drawn a conclusion with a correlation. I'll completely hand-wave that and call you a muppet whilst doing so. That's my privilege.
I think the issue is a lot of people are very invested in whichever conspiracies, whether contrails or 9/11, and they're just stuck within that framework and not just seeing it as the standards are shit. Get better standards.
Yeah, like Jen's stuck on 9/11, Harper's stuck on, what do you call it? Chemtrails, because he's been looking into it since 1999.
I have nothing against people looking into things. All these things I've looked into, spent a lot of time, but I'm not going to assert things that I can't prove without a shadow of a doubt, because I don't want to make myself look like a tit saying things that I can't prove.
You're a wise man.
The only standard I've heard so far is flying behind a plane, though, or collecting samples, which most people don't have private planes.
Yesterday I said, get a sample before you take it up into the plane. Can you get me that?
I'll just say it again. It's obviously mentally deficient and can't listen. I'll explain it again because you're slow when you're finished spurging. No, our standard is not what you need to address. We aren't suggesting you need to do anything. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to go beyond a plane. No. You don't have to do that. You, a retard, can accept this correlation if you want to. Now, we, the discerning individuals on this panel, just think you're a fucking retard when you accept correlation and tell us that we need to fly behind planes. No, fucktard. You don't have to do anything. I don't expect you to go and fly behind anything. Don't care. But what you've provided for your shit that you believe in as a fucking spurgy retard, your standards lacking, woeful, idiotic. That's what I'll summarise it as, because it's just a correlation that you've drawn a conclusion with. You understand that's not me hand-waving, it's me calling you a fucking retard based on the correlative example that you've given. You understand that? That's why you're being called a fucking retard. You want to respond,
you say
retard?
there's a standard, but then I ask for the standard, and then there isn't
I couldn't give a fuck.
So then which is it? Is there a standard or not?
Your standard,
if there
your
isn't
evidence,
one,
your claim,
then
I
there's
don't
no
give a shit, I don't need to provide
had.
anything. Are you deaf?
You're just going to talk through me. That's
yeah,
cool.
because you're deaf. I don't have to provide a standard. It's called a burden of proof reversal. Like, I give a flying fuck what you want to prove about your shit that you've drawn a conclusion based on a correlation. I don't have to provide anything. It's not my standard. I don't have to give any evidence at all. I can just listen to yours and go, that's shite. Or it's like, well, I need to go and get something. No, I don't. I don't need to get anything for your claim that you think you're proving with a correlation. You're not. You're just a dumb shit.
Now,
Can I give an example of correlation?
Conversation should be about like problem solution amongst like, you know, people. But in this case, Nathan, one second. Nathan literally said, "Oh, I didn't hear him talk about the dirt. That'd have been something." So it's not like he's being unreasonable. He's giving you something. I forget I don't know what Neil said, but I was thinking, shoot, just test the dirt before and after they fly over. That'd be something.
Yeah, but still
Again,
correlation.
but you're sitting here arguing that we don't want to call what you're giving science. Do you have anything or not?
This guy is a complete wanker. He told me I was spurging through him. I mean, you are a cunt. Do you understand, sir? What you are is a cunt. Nothing more, nothing less. How fucking dare you insult me by using mental illness to suggest that I'm spurging? Not even a mental illness, a definition from the DSM, Asperger's syndrome, right? It's not even in the DSM anymore. You realise that? Did you know that, you dumb fuck? I asked you a question, you fucking retard. Do you understand that that's Asperger's syndrome, to be more accurate, isn't even in the DSM anymore? Did you know that? You dumb fuck. Your insults are even out of date, you dumb fuck. How dare you come here with your stupid, shitty beliefs in things and start insulting people and saying they're spurging. What a wanker. You don't deserve our respect. If you were in front of me, I'd fucking headbutt you. Yeah? If you insulted me in that way, you'd find your face bleeding. That's what you'd find, you stupid cunt. Do you understand me? The only reason you've got the fucking balls to talk to me like that is because there's a million miles of internet fibre between us. If you're in front of me, you'd have a fucking broken nose. Cheeky cunt. Yeah. Now take your shitty standard that nobody here will accept because it's garbage and ram it up your dumb fuck retarded arsehole. You understand me, you dumb twat? Don't seem to be answering me. You stupid twat. Fucking dare you talk to us like that? Because you've got a belief in some fucking conspiracy. That's why you feel you've got the right to talk to us like that, do you, dumb cunt?
Oh, Carlos has a lot of conspiracies.
You are a cunt. You've come here to peddle your belief based on a correlation, and then you've insulted us. We're here talking to you, entertaining a retard. Yeah? But you think you've got the right to talk to us like dirt. You don't.
A classic example of correlation not being causation is the link between ice cream sales and drowning incidents. Both rise in the summer, but ice cream doesn't cause drowning. Hot weather causes both increased swimming, leading to more drownings, and increased ice cream consumptions.
That's right. Those ice creams are causing you to drown.
If you're a spurging idiot, then yeah, you can draw a correlation and then yak through the people that are trying to correct you on your inaccuracies and your flaws in logic. But you just felt that you could insult us, so I've just taken it up tenfold. That's what I've done. Just pointed out with actual evidentiary standards of how stupid you are. Don't be like that. Don't be a cunt here, because you'll get both barrels, right? And it'll be described what would happen to you in the real fucking world, right? You'd get somebody who would headbutt you. They wouldn't just tolerate you and explain how your standards are woeful. They'd just fucking headbutt you. That's what they'd do. Suddenly you'd be on the floor bleeding. Oh, what fuck happened? I just called him a spurgo. Next thing I know, I'm on the floor bleeding. You understand that, you fucking dim-witted wanker? In the real world, people would beat the living fuck out of you for behaving like you are. You understand that, you dumb tard? Clearly not. Cat got your tongue now you're being insulted in the way you've decided to talk to us. With a dose of how it would work out in reality for you. You'd end up bleeding. You spent too much time on the internet.
But it's just like, you know what? We were right up the same alley in Earth Awakening. And I must say, Matrix upheld the scientific standard, and maybe one or two others as well. So it's not always everybody in the server, but they were giving examples of why what the other people were saying wasn't science, and they gave the example of the sun rises because the rooster crows. We're talking about the same thing, basically, aren't we? Correlation.
Well, Divergent good content. Read what he posted about if he can't, he's having something happen. He got hacked and he can't post anything. So he says, oh, I lost. Oh, here it is. Correlation does not imply causation because a relationship between two variables does not necessarily mean one causes the other. While correlation indicates that two variables change together, it does not establish a cause and effect link. That's it. By the way, all of this has nothing to do with flat Earth.
It's got something to do with how we get treated when somebody's got a belief in something. Suddenly we get, it's warranted to treat your fellow man like a complete scumbag. Start describing him like he's got a mental illness just because he doesn't agree with your correlation. What the hell? Like I said to the guy, in reality, you'd get headbutted. If you weren't with million miles of fibre between us, that's what would happen. You very quickly find yourself with a bloody nose. These idiots have spent too long on the internet.
I don't know. Cuddle's icon has freaking, what's that? Deadpool. He might be a badass, Nathan.
Might be a badass. He sounds like a geek.
He's part of that free man and all of that stuff.
The guy who was speaking to us sounded like a dweeb. He sounded like a fucking dweeb. And dweebs need occasionally reminding that in the real world, you'd have the living shit kicked out of you for talking to somebody else like that. They'd just fucking headbutt you. And then you'd go like, all right, well, I'm going to go and call the police. Really? Or what about if I stamp on your fucking head? What about if I stamp on your hands and remove your phone from you, you cheeky little cunt? You still think you're going to call me spurging then, are you? No, I don't think so. No, I'll stamp on your fingers.
You're just spurging me.
Yeah, you're just spurging, really. Bang! All right, now you got a bloody fucking nose. What are you going to do now? You want to call me spurging again? We'll see if I can break a few of your bones. Cheeky cunt. I assume he's either run off or just dumbstruck. Lost for words.
Yeah, I think he left.
Yeah, because he can't he? He can just press a little disconnect button on the internet. Yeah. Meanwhile, in real world scenarios, yeah, it's how fast can you run?
I check with the electrician, and then I check back here, and then the poop's hitting the fan, huh, guys?
We just get wankers that have decided that because they've got a belief in something, they've got the fair game to call you names. No. I can play that game, no worries. Even with 1,000,000 miles of fibre between us, I can still call you a dweeb.
Guess you're telling them Santa's not real, Nathan. Holding them to a higher standard of evidence to prove that Santa is real.
Yeah, Santa is real, therefore I expect you to be my doormat. You just don't understand. Meanwhile, the Earth's measured, aviated, navigated, surveyed, chartered, and built on flat.
Well, Eli, where did you hear this thing about of debate with Jin and you? Because I want to find out who's the cause of this. Are people just trying to stir up shit, or is this a thing?
Yeah, is it poop starting?
I don't know. They said they were gonna that they already have the platform. That they told me that the channel or wherever it was, and they said it's set up. Jen is. I can't really remember. That's why I'm like, why don't Jen just? Maybe Jen's asleep.
You know why this is happening, right? Because we've turned our backs on the feast of nonsense. What united most flat earthers was their ability to spew shite about conspiracies. And of recent times, we've gone, it's all nonsense. Totally useless. Doesn't help you. In fact, it serves well to mock you. Then when we come along and start looking at their crazy, idiotic conspiracy theories, they get all triggered and start telling you how you must believe as they believe. What, you're going to ignore this correlation? You're going to ignore it? Yeah, I am.
think you hit it right on the head, Nathan. That's what happened. We turned our back on the nonsense, and they're trying to drag us back in. Like when Al Pacino, as Michael Corleone says, every time I get out, they pull me back in. But there's no pulling us back in anymore. That's the part that's driving them mad.
It's all self-indulgent. Why does this guy want to defend chemtrails? Because at a bar, in a social setting, he can be the centre of attention while he fear bombs people with the worry of how they're being poisoned. And they go, oh, wow, I'm so grateful. You're basically the secret king telling us this wonderful information. You fucking gamma dick. That's all this is. People wanting to sniff their own farts. Tell themselves how wonderful they are because they've got this exclusive information to lord over next man. When next man goes, no, I don't believe you. Well, I will now express my authority over you because I know. Look at my correlation. And when you go, it's just a correlation, that's a shit standard. You get called a spurg. No, I'm afraid not, dweeb. You just haven't got something that made you feel special. You thought you were special. You thought you could lord it over those around you because you have this special secret knowledge about fucking chemtrails. Well, it turns out you're just a wanker. That's all it really turns out to be. It's nothing to do with your special gamma dick information that's so special. In reality, you're just like everyone else. Just another pathetic loser. That's all you are.
Yeah, then when you try to sincerely help people out, to try and, sometimes you got to shake somebody to wake up, trying to help them out. You get called a piece of shit in the sole of their shoe. So I think just remove ourselves far from it and just continue to talk about how Earth is measured. Because that takes us totally out of the feast of nonsense.
Yep, keep those Joe Numeric videos coming, measuring Earth flat. 100.
We're surrounded by projecting Spurgos, as he called me. Because that's what it really is. He's losing his shit because we're undermining the thing that made him feel special. That's what's really happening.
Well, Spurg is better than being called a piece of shit, not worthy of being on the sole of your shoe. I'll take a Spurg.
But why? Because we say this is a woeful standard. Well, what would you do? Go flying behind a plane? No, we haven't got any skin in this race. We couldn't give a shit. You're the one putting it out there with a crap standard that I don't accept. So suddenly, because I don't accept your crap, woeful standard, I'm suggesting people fly behind the jets of planes? No, fucking retard. Nobody's suggesting that. You just have a crap standard of evidence. You haven't proven your point. But suddenly it's incumbent on me to suggest how you would go about proving your crappy point that you feel special with. No, I don't care if you prove this or not. Couldn't give two shits. It's only important to you, but it was important to you because it made you feel special. Like you had some secret knowledge. That's what Flat Earth has been turned into. Just like chemtrails. Make it into the same sort of crap conspiracy that people can feel special about believing in. Like they've got some secret knowledge. Oh, well, I know we can see too far with a P900. So I'm super special because I know something you don't. It's like, oh, right, so that's what this is really all about for you. Making yourself feel more important than the next person along in line. Because you know something they don't about how far we're supposed to see on a ball. About how we're being poisoned by the chemtrails. All right. So when we actually break it down and say, okay, well, let's have a look at your standards then. What are you telling me that I've got to fly behind a plane? I couldn't give a monkeys what you do to prove your point. You're the one making it like it's consequential to me.
Well, they said that because I was asking for a sample. They said, "What do you want to fly behind the plane? You'll be shot out of the sky." More conspiracy, being controlled by the government. And if you tried that, you'll be shot out of the sky, Nathan. But I never said that. I just said, give me a sample of what you're claiming is being sprayed. You can get that before it gets on the plane and goes in the air.
Yeah, so you're saying in order to accept this crap woeful standard that hasn't been proven, you'd want a sample of what they're claiming is being poisoning. It's poisoning us. Right, okay, so you say it's barium, strontium, and aluminium. Why? Well, because those have been found in the soil. Okay. Maybe someone drove past and threw it out of the fucking car window. Do you know that they didn't? Have you proven how it got to the soil? Well, it could only be from these photographs. Look at them. Why? Just going to give short shrift to these total cunts. Gamma dicks that felt special, like they were the secret king with this secret special information that they had. And I'm tired of it. We're surrounded by conspiratards. Just dumb fucks who think they've got special information to pass on. Like, how's it going to benefit me? That sentiment that we had put to us back in the day when we first started expressing our flat earth belief holds true. What consequence does this hold for me? Why do I give a shit about this information? Does it matter? Well, because this has got into the soil. Really? How did it get there? Well, from the chemtrails. Well, how do you know? Well, because I've got pictures of planes with trails behind them. Yeah, that's crap. That's a crap standard. That doesn't prove a damn thing. Oh, well, you're just a spurgy tard. No, I'm just someone with higher standards of evidence than you. Oh, what are you suggesting? I should be flying... No, I'm not suggesting you do anything. I'm telling you, your standards are crap. But what, me telling you doesn't mean you get to feel special anymore? Like you were lording it over us with this special, super important information you had? We're all gonna die! We're being poisoned! Oh no, I better pay attention! That's what they want. So what, we've got to listen to you telling us how we're being poisoned? You're just a fearmonger. That's all you're doing. You know better than the people who profess this shit. So just for the purposes of scaring others. Yeah? Like the invisible boogeyman 5 years ago. There's only one reason why we had an invisible boogeyman, to scare the shit out of people. This is no different if you can't standardise it with actual evidence. So I need to fear them then. So what do you want me to do? You want me to be scared of the planes? No, you pathetic little cuck. I'm not going to be living in fear of the fucking aeroplanes. You pathetic little twat, you can fear the planes because of your shitty correlation you've drawn. You with your bonkers ass-about face logic, you can fear the aeroplanes, okay? Now fuck off and go and fear the planes away from me. No, don't fear the planes, okay? They don't scare me. What's that? I should be scared. Fuck off. You go and be scared by them. Idiot.
Yeah, it's an ad baculum fallacy. Appealing to force or coercion without evidence. Yeah, if I can just keep fear-mongering you, or I'll try the other aspect of, oh, you want to donate? Here's some coercion. You just have to believe me. But no evidence whatsoever.
I mean, what
So you're saying the soil is not evidence?
Million other possibilities of how those chemicals or elements could have gotten into the soil.
No, ice cream causes drowning.
But they're directly under the plane path. Everywhere the plane flew, underneath on that soil, is all of these chemicals. Be afraid. Be very, very, very afraid. I've been looking into this since 1999. Look at the pictures.
Start spinning the burden back on them, and you've done nothing. 27 years, and you've done not a thing about it. What have you done to counteract this problem? Well, nothing. You think telling me is going to help?
That's a good one, Nathan. I never thought of it like that. Okay, so all of these years, what have you done? All of these years looking into buildings falling, what have you done personally? Or the Hawk, what have you done personally with these chemtrails that are killing people? Preventing global warming.
The soil's poisoned? Oh my God, what are you going to do about it? Go out there and solve this problem immediately. I implore you. Now you've told me, all I know is you've known about this for how long? And you've done nothing? Get out there and do it now. What am I going to do? I'm going to tell you to get on with it and sort it out. That's what I'm going to do. Tell you to get on with it, you pathetic little gamma cuck. Get out there, sort this problem out. You've known about it too long to have not done anything.
Exactly. They were throwing that at me the other day that they were the authority. I'm just a new guy in this.
I should do something with you. No, I don't believe this shit. Yeah? I'm just being a wanker like you. Like flipping it back onto you like it's somehow a problem that you're not dealing with. I don't actually think it's a problem because you've not shown that it's a problem. You just believe it's a problem with a correlation you've drawn. So me, I couldn't give two shits. But I'm going to demand that you do something about the problem you perceive that you're trying to fearmonger me with. Not that you've in any way standardised it to the point where I believe you. I don't. Let's get that clear. I don't believe your shite that you're spewing. Because you haven't proven it to me. What's that? It's good enough for you. Well, then you should be out there doing something about it. Not yakking about it for 27 years.
But no one's saying that there aren't conspiracies, people don't conspire, or bullshit's happening. It's if you're trying to prove something, have some proof.
Right. And you know what else was thrown at me? When I said, it sounds like to me like they're just keeping the globe alive. I was told, no, that's the same thing as saying, why would they lie? No, it's not. I don't think it is.
You
You're
evidenced
telling me
it.
that they're doing.
You made that claim. And then you evidenced it by saying, here's a statement where they say they're specifically doing the geoengineering to protect from global warming. End quote. Here's the statement. And then you provided it. So I can only immediately go, well, evidentially, if that's the right word, it is the case that it's promoting global warming. Because it is. There's it documented that that's the reason they're giving for doing it. Well, in a court case, what do they try and do with a witness? They try and show that the witness lies. That's it. Now, not about the very specific thing that's on trial necessarily, about anything. Because then you go, this person is a liar. Here's where they have lied. Therefore, they are a liar. That's it. That's how a solicitor will discredit a witness. Show where they've lied. So in this case, you go, well, the globe isn't real. So they can't be doing chemtrails with geoengineering in mind, as you're professing it to be, because the claim is that it's to stop global warming. So ultimately, that's bullshit. Oh, no. Well, what are they going to do? It's to stop flat earth warming? Well, just not lie. If there's a part of their rhetoric that's bullshit, why would I say, oh, well, I'll just selectively ignore the bit that I know is bullshit and accept everything else? Because you tell me to. Piss off. What kind of discernment do you have? Really? So you know they're lying about this bit, but you're going to take the rest of it as read anyway? Why? That's your standard. Okay. Oh, well, they're only lying a little bit. If they're lying at all, I don't want anything to do with them. That's it. Oh, but 90% of what they say, I don't care. How do I know which percentage is true? I can't know. They're liars. Part of their rhetoric is ball-shaped. And this purposefully is defending that ball-shaped nature of the world that it isn't. It's garbage. This is a woeful standard. Why would I ever in my right mind accept the word of a liar? Oh, well, just accept the rest of it, the bits that you know aren't lying. I don't know that, though, do I? But I do know they're lying about this particular aspect, the ball-shaped nature of it. Don't tell me that they should be telling you the rest of the rhetoric alongside a flat earth truth. No, they're just lying. Doesn't matter to what percentage. The moment you know that they're bullshitters, you can't accept what they say. You need a much, much, much higher standard the moment you know that they're bullshitters. Not, oh, well, I'll just accept the rest, take it as read anyway. Who cares? No. The moment they're proven bullshitters, the standards go through the roof. Like they have to go to the ends of the earth with the highest of high standards once they're proven to be bullshitters. Global warming? No, I just don't believe them anymore. I know that's not true. Oh, well, okay, I'll just ignore that bit that's a complete bullshit lie and accept the rest. No. Our entire justice system is built on this type of discernment. Not on, oh, well, yeah, he's a bullshitter and he completely lied his ass off about that aspect of his story, but the rest of it's true. No, they call it impeachment. Like I say, the justice standard is based on this. But we're supposed to throw it out the window because someone's got a belief in a correlation they've drawn. Therefore, no, it don't matter that they're lying. Yeah, it does. It absolutely matters.
Yeah, I can't understand why they want to get a bunch of them. And even yesterday, because you had the show again, had Oxbow Spirit in there, who's always in your chat. And he was saying that has not basically, just because they're saying it's for global warming, that doesn't mean you have to throw out everything else that they have. Yes, it does. Hello? My question was, do we live on a globe? Answer, no. So what are we talking about here?
Plus, I'm tired of the burden being flipped, right? If you've got a claim to make, you will standardize the evidence that's given, and I will assess it based on its validity. That's it. Not suddenly I'm embroiled into having to give you an explanation of how you would acquire the evidence you need to prove your claim. Like, AKA, oh, well, what should we do? You're saying we should fly behind the jet planes to gather up the aluminium. No, Neil asked you to standardise your evidence. You're saying it's aluminium. He's asking you to show it. That's it. What you can't, well, that's not my problem. It's not Neil's problem. If you can't standardise what you're suggesting in your claim, which is all it is, that's not incumbent on me to come up with a way of you validating it. I don't care how you validate it. You haven't.
Yeah, you're never going to get proof. It's always going to be they're going to flip the burden on you and try to berate you for not at least taking what they're saying serious. I mean, they're poisoning the sky. Why don't you care about it?
Yeah, first prove that they are, then I'll concern myself.
And that goes with anything, not just what is it called? What are we talking about? Chemtrails. Not just chemtrails, with anything that they're supposing that the elites are doing to either poison us or maintain control, like they have to do anything to maintain control. That's a laugh.
Yeah, we're surrounded by conspirators.
Yeah, you say that, and I can understand it, but it comes to a realization when you hear what's going on in the chat. I'm like, whoa, we are really surrounded by conspirators. Holy shoot.
With that, though, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
But when you measure it flat, it contradicts that. I'm spitting flat facts and that. And I know you don't like that. Google Maps is flat, it presents elevation profiles like that. I'm a spitting flat earth king. Sentence has a ring, doing my own thing. If Earth was a big roast chicken, factually finger licking chicken. We just got the measurements missing. I'm spitting eggs and vegs, begging the question lesson. I've said it before, time after time. I'm the spitting flat earth king of rhyme.